Cool. What's up, everybody? We are just having people trickle in. Good to see everybody.
What's up, everybody?
Let me turn off this audio.
I'm excited to be here as always.
Third co-host, Brian.
Thank you.
Who's Geckos?
Thank you for always having me on these lives.
Yeah, man, it's fun. You bring the fire. Hype man who? Is your audio's okay, Brian? Is it echoing? It's okay.
I hear you perfectly.
Okay. Sweet. We got
who do we got in here? We got
19 people on.
I see Penny from Cowabunga Cresties. Hello, DNA Geckos. Judah.
What's up, everybody?
Wenchenzio.
Oh, wait, hold on, let me pull in our special guest, and we can say hi to everyone.
Celtic. Oh!
That's for you, Brian.
Bob Ross! Bob Ross is
we're on. Focus. Let me focus.
Yeah, focus your camera. Hi, Sarah.
Hi,
hey,
how are
Sarah.
you guys?
Good. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, whatever.
Bob, you have to paint a nice picture to get.
Yeah, we should have had a canvas back here. Here's just painting all the happy little trees.
Oh, we have some new people here. Visitors.
Phil and Lexi. Hey, Phil and Lexi.
Andrew doesn't scare him away.
Yeah.
Celtic. I love it, man.
Yeah,
Did you sit there and blow it out?
I actually did blow dry it. It's the first time I've done that in like 2 years. I did it just for you, Brian. I knew you liked it.
Were you teasing it out with your comb?
Yeah.
I love it.
That's funny.
I love it. It's so nice.
It's
we got
pretty
everybody
big.
in here.
It's pretty fluffy.
It's one of a kind.
I feel like I want to touch it.
Sarah, you must love it. Do you love the puffy hair?
He was just like, I just don't even know earlier.
I would just be patting it all day.
Nothing surprises me with him anymore. So,
Andrew, I like that picture of you upside down.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good one.
It took me a while to figure out how that picture was taken. I was like, what is this picture upside down? And he's just like, I was like, no, it can't be because his feet is not touching anything. So I must say that's a very high skilled maneuver.
Yeah,
he just went right into it too. Like
I do them all the time. Haven't done one in probably 5 or 6 years, but it's like riding a bike, man. Bust out a headstand whenever you can.
That's great.
AJ will be joining us. AJ will be joining us soon. He's cooking. Nobody to help him with baby Henry, so he's helping Tosh, and so he'll be on in a few minutes. But
probably making hot dogs. I told him the baby's not old enough.
He can't eat hot dogs yet, man. He can't eat spam musubis.
No spam. Was it 6? Wait, they can't start taking solids. I should know this because I just went through this. So probably 8 months? Is it 8 months or 6 months?
What's up,
something like that?
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm too. My kids are a little bit older now.
Fruit fly.
They're out of diapers.
Fruit flies. Oh, so
Sarah just had one fly almost go in her eye.
Oh no.
How do you guys have a big fruit fly issue? Do you have a lot
this year?
This year, yeah.
But we haven't for the last few years. But I think switching to some of the cypress mulch that we're using.
Oh, really?
Extra moisture, something that kind of made a nice little habitat for them. But so we're getting them under control now. Finally.
I've been in the process of changing my females over to substrate instead of paper towels. So I was going to do cocoa fiber, not cypress mulch. But do you guys use cypress mulch on your females?
So we are trying it right now, and they definitely will randomly lay in it, and the eggs are usually not good when we find them.
Oh, why? Because it dries out?
Yeah, we've got lay boxes with humid sphagnum moss and stuff in it, but they will still randomly just lay in the bark, even though it's not really moist. But they do the same thing with paper towels sometimes too. So
yeah, true. That's true.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But Yeah, we've used cocoa fiber on some stuff, but it's really dusty. And
it's nice not having to clean the bins every week.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, with the past few guests, they've been talking about cypress mulch or some sort of substrate, and I was talking with Brian. He's like trying to put more substrate in, and I was like, I need to do that because the towels are killing me. Like, you know, like it just sucks, and it's so dirty. You have to change it every couple of days.
Yeah. So we were actually going to make a post about this, but we've been cleaning and reusing all of our 3/4 ounce portion cups for like the last 3 years. And we just recycled the first batch of like 1,600 of them. So
wow.
We had like 1,600. So we'd have extras for like 3 or 4 feeding and water. And we just like up until now, we've maybe replaced like 100 cups total for like getting little pinholes in them or whatever. And then all of a sudden, like a couple weeks ago, we had like 4 or 5 that had drained the water out like in one feeding. We're like, all right, it's time to just recycle the whole batch and but think about, because we were going through between like probably 300 and 400 portion cups every feeding.
Yeah.
So like 2 plus times a week for 3 years. We haven't done that.
Wow.
Yeah.
3 years?
You were reusing them for that long?
Yeah.
And you were cleaning them every time?
So what we do is anything that's still like got like kind of moist diet in it, we have these little squeeze bottles, and we use those to rinse out any like loose diet. And anything that's dry, we just chuck straight in a 5-gallon bucket with like a laundry bag in it. And then those go straight in the washing machine. And after straight through the clothes washer. And we'd run that twice with a little bit of bleach, and they come out almost flawless.
So don't the cups lock? They go into each other. They can. Yeah.
So you get like probably less than 5% of them that don't get quite as clean as you want, or that lock into each other. And those ones you just, when you're feeding, you just pull those and chuck them straight back in the bucket.
Okay.
But I mean, we've literally gone through maybe a total of 100 cups in the last 3 years. And then this whole last batch, we cleaned and recycled them all and just opened up like 8 new sleeves of cups.
At least they're cheap enough to replace.
These dish cups?
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is like, I'm looking at, the cost. And if I like, oh, nice. If I hand,
I got one of those in my bag too.
If I hand cleaned them all, it would take forever. And we used to, only like 30 geckos or whatever, right? But I just like look at how to keep things as sustainable as possible and leave like as small of a footprint as possible. Yeah. And so going through and realize, I mean, we noticed that we obviously weren't spending, I don't know, $1,000 a year on cups or more, but now it's like you're also not putting. I didn't even calculate it out, but it'd be, I don't know, it'd be a freaking lot of cups.
It'd be a lot.
I weighed them, and it's a gram of plastic per cup. So I mean, I don't know. It's got to be a lot.
Yeah.
Do
you guys sell these, by the way?
Not yet, but we
have some that we could. Yeah, we have a small quantity right now.
Okay. Right now, I just use the glass candlelight holders, and I put these little cups in them.
Yeah.
But then this is kind of cool because then you just have it in one unit, and then you just pop it in there.
And they like most of the cups will actually snap in, like they'll. Lock it. Yeah. Okay. So if you press it down, you can actually pick up the holder by the cup.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I got it. That's cool.
So you can just drop it in there or like lock it in.
Awesome. Cool.
So
well, let me do a quick
ballpark of how many cups we were going through.
I'd love to know about this stuff. Let me do a quick intro for us now that we have some people trickled in. We're about 50 viewers. This is episode 34 of the Gecko Pod. Thanks everybody for joining us on the live. We are a podcast for the Gecko community where we talk about the hobby and the business of breeding geckos. We're here to gather the community, get a lot more new people into the hobby, and encourage everybody to grow and work together and enjoy their projects. And so we're happy to have you guys here, Gilpins and Brian, as usual, on our lives. Are you guys doing all right? I know it was kind of last minute for you guys, Andrew and Sarah. Was it?
Yeah, we're doing good.
Was it a free night for you guys?
What's up?
It was just like did you change plans to come here, or was it a free night?
We are fairly flexible most of the time. It's just a matter of trying to get everything done in a different order.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
we've got time throughout the day to do various things, and it's just a matter of reordering stuff to make it happen. So we didn't have any set plans for tonight.
Okay.
We were celebrating Sully's birthday, our dog's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday! How old
is Sully?
He just turned 1 today.
Yay, puppy.
All right, so I did a ballpark estimate on how many cups we would have been going through per year, and it's 32,400 cups a year.
No.
That would have been going straight in the trash.
That's if you were replacing each one every time.
And that's not all of them. So we don't use those cups for everything, but we were going through between 200 and 300 per feeding by the time because we were using them for water bowls for a lot of stuff. And the second they get gross for water, we would have pitched them before too.
Okay.
And so we use a lot of like little water bottle caps and stuff too.
That's what I use.
We're cleaning those the same way, even though we got like a freaking ton of them. We got like trash bags full of those things. And we don't go through any of those. Like we used to pitch them all. So let's see here.
That tank is mesmerizing, Ryan.
Oh, they just go back. They just go back and forth all day.
Yeah, it's cool.
If you're looking at weight in plastic, that's 216 pounds of plastic in 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a lot. Yeah, Laguna says toss used feeder cups with dubias and runners to clean it up pretty good.
Interesting. Yeah, the issue is, you start getting maggots and stuff. You got to rinse those, and if it starts molding, or if you've got to put 300 cups in the roaches, is not quite the same as doing 20 or 30 cups.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so. Biodegradable bowls.
Yeah, I've tried those. I don't care for them. They end up soaking into some of the diet fairly quickly.
Okay.
And also, I don't like the way they feel. So, like the tactile feel of using the paper cups and trying to separate them and then do hundreds of those at a time. It takes too much time for me. Whereas the plastic ones slide apart and you can just drop them and they just go kind of where you want them. So they're good. They have a purpose, and they're biodegradable, sure, but we tried them out. I didn't really care for it much myself.
I just use gallon water bottle caps. That's it for my adults. And then I use the little 16-ounce ones, the little bottle ones for babies. And that's it.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of Powerade caps that we use for water bowls for the
I use tea for water bowls. I use glass, so they don't. There's less chance of them tipping it over.
Yeah,
Yeah, the glass is pretty sturdy. I like using the glass. But actually, if you sell these, I'll get these from you. If you sell them, if you sell 100 of these, I'll buy them from you.
We'll set you up
at $20 each.
Yeah. It won't be bad. I've actually got some new designs that we're working on for hanging, not magnetic, but I'm playing. So I like the idea of magnetic ledges and food bowl holders. They're upstairs if you wanted to snag them. But you put in a lychee cage or something, it's probably just going to slide down the wall, and you've got our cages are it's
going to knock it off.
eighth inch thick. You put them in a bucket or a box or something upstairs right by the 3D printer. So I was like, well, I like to be able to move stuff around, but I want to be a little bit more sturdy than the magnet. So I'm playing with command strips. Like they use for picture frame holders and stuff.
So then you would have to have it where it could come off somehow. So you would have a base that would be stuck.
It's got a mount.
Command strip.
Yep.
Yeah. You got to be able to clean the ledge somehow.
Well, so the 3D plastic stuff cleans up pretty easy, and it's pretty low profile. So Sarah's grabbing a couple of them. But I made a couple. I tested the command strips off for some Phelsuma clemeri for some semicircle little pieces that hang to hold the bamboo. Because a lot of people hot glue the bamboo to the sides of the cage, but I want to be able to take stuff apart.
Yeah.
So I made little pieces to hold those, and I think I've got some little other pieces in there too for the So
AJ's anti-magnetic ledge.
Yeah. So this is like this is for the little water bottle caps.
Yeah.
And so here's the
that's
mount.
cool.
And so then when it sets in, it goes completely flush. So this drops completely into it. And then you would just use like a command strip on this piece. And so this would stay wherever you put it. And it's good if you're like, if you have stuff set at a certain height and you don't need to like drag it around to like reposition like branches and stuff. So like the Felsuma, you just put the bamboo where you want it. I don't know how well it'll work for stuff if you're like moving cork around a ton. Because you're probably not going to line it up in the same spot, and you might want to shift a ledge or a magnetic holder. But if you're setting something close to like the substrate near the ground, I think it could work pretty good. And it's not going to work in bins. Like if you're using the magnets in the bins, and obviously that's the way to go. But then I have like a little bit. It'll fit.
Gecko Cove. Yep.
So then.
I guess we can't talk about live on the Gecko Pod, but yeah, I wish I had
here's like here's a little bigger version of it, like the same. So this uses the exact same mount. So the base plate's the same.
So the magnet is pretty strong.
No, it's not a magnet. It's command strip.
It's like a piece of tape that peels clean. So you just pull down on the tape and it pops it off. But I tested it out on the bamboo and the Felsuma, and I was probably putting 10 or 15 pounds worth of force down on the bamboo piece, and it didn't go anywhere. So
nice. People are so interested in Brian's tank. How many tanks is that in the background?
This one's gallons, 400 gallons, and then I have 125 gallon sump, so it's 525 gallons volume of water.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's super sick.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
How often do you do water changes?
Every 2 weeks I do a water change. I do like 60 to 75% every 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's only because of the stingray, because stingrays, their ammonia levels can only get to a certain level, and they become very sensitive to ammonia. So I have to do I mean, if it wasn't for the stingray, I'd probably do a water change once a month only.
Stingray. Okay, here's a question for you guys. Gilbins, I know you guys are somewhat averse to the morphs.
I just don't know much about it, so that's going to be a question for you guys.
Yeah. Well, we can get your commentary. So, what do you guys think about the possible combo caps and Axanthics? That's happened already, right?
Yeah,
Brian.
Yeah, but my thing is, I still can't even tell the difference. Like, like if you put Axanthic, if you cross Axanthic to a cap,
try to pull it up.
How do you know? Because most of the caps that they do, it ends up becoming phantom. It's so hard with anything that's Axanthic phantoms, cap phantoms. They all look the same. They're all just dark animals.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it, not working with either of them myself, but I can see how that could be. But then again, like I look at a sable lily white, and I've not seen them like in person side by side as hatchlings or
it looks like an Axanthic lily white. Yeah.
And so to me, those are difficult to tell too. And I look at some of the other stuff, but I also don't work with it, so it makes it.
Yeah.
Who Brian? Who has it? I'm gonna try to pull it up on Instagram. Do you remember?
Bro, I can't remember who.
Okay, I'll find it as you guys are chatting.
Somewhere along the lines of Korea.
But Korea has it.
So yeah, I get what you're saying. Like sable lily whites and let's say a frappuccino.
Yeah, that's what I think what you meant.
I feel like when they're both babies, like it's hard. You'll be hard to tell which one's which, right?
Yeah,
like it's almost impossible.
Yeah, I forget who has it. If somebody knows, let us know. I'll pull it up.
As LM, a little monster, says that cappuccino and sable are allelic, meaning they're similar genes, but they're different, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I can't tell. I don't have sable. I have cappuccinos, but I don't have sables. And I just hatched frappuccinos maybe like 3-4 weeks ago, and now I have three frappuccinos, and those you can totally tell the difference between a frappuccino versus a lily white at hatch, like right out of the egg. Like it's totally different. You can see it. It's so
Between a frap and a normal lily, right?
And a normal lily.
Just for those of us that aren't familiar with it, what are some of the key things that you see with that?
Yeah.
So first,
that's a good question.
Is the white out of the egg on a frap is like bright white. So lily whites, even if you have a really high white lily white, when they hatch, they still have a little yellow tint to it, like a slight yellow tint.
Hold on, let me.
Right.
Hold on, let me throw our magic guest of honor, or host of honor, AJD Reptiles.
Sorry, kind of a meltdown at the Davidson house right now.
Oh no! Don't worry, bro. Take care of your family. Family first.
I'll be on for a bit, but then I'll hop off.
Okay.
All right, back to what you were saying.
Yeah.
Oh. So the frappuccinos, when they come out of the egg, they're bright white. So, and also you can see the dark contrast of, like, let's say the head with the white. It's a lot darker and more prominent than lily white, like that. So those are my two. Those are the two that I hatched.
Yeah. So the white's just more pure.
Right, yeah, and the tail, right?
So the male lily white that produced these is a very high white lily white. So
are those both frappuccinos?
No, this one's just frap and
the whiter tail is a frap, and the more yellow one is a normal lily.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can see the contrast and the darkness on the head is different from the other one.
I see the description now. Yeah.
Yeah. So now
that's a nice comparison.
Yeah.
So I had to separate these because a week later, the one on top started developing white. Like, it started becoming whiter because the lily white is actually, like, if you produce lily white, there's some lily whites that are really bright white, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's happening with that one on top. But because it's the lily white gene and not the cappuccino gene with it, for some reason it just washes the white at hatchling. So it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be hard later on to tell the difference as they get older. But when see it right from hatchling, there's a difference. You know which one's a lily whites and which one is a frap.
And probably that'll be for most of the cases, but I don't know. We'll see. Because I mean, even with lilies and stuff, you still get some stuff you're like, I'm not quite sure, but after a while, you obviously figure it out. So
yeah, I mean, lily whites is going to be. I feel like lily whites is the key for any genetic. Like, if you want to discover any type of new gene, if you feel like something's like, if you want to try to prove out a gene, you're using lily white to like figure out if it's something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a good like canvas that how it works and how it kind of affects animals. So when you add another gene, you can see what's happening, is what you're saying.
That makes sense.
Let me jump in here. Flexi asks, what are your favorite resources to learn more about genetics and other important breeding info? The go-to that a lot of people go to is Foundation Genetics, Little Monsters. You could go to their website. You can come listen to us talk for hours on and catch glimpses, little nuggets at an hour and 20 minutes of this episode. So
just watch from episode 1 to 34.
Watch them twice over every episode, and you'll learn a little bit more. But what do you guys say, Andrew and Sarah? What are some resources that you guys go to?
I mean, those are the ones that I'm usually going to check. But if it's more of like a genetics question, I usually just do some quick searches and start looking at ball pythons or corn snake forums or anything else that's going to, explain what's going on at a Punnett Square. And I am not going to lie, my knowledge on the genetics side is not great. So I just kind of learn what we work with and then try to pick in little pieces and stuff here and there to kind of branch out and learn stuff that we're interested in working with, or just so we know more about what other people are working on. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah, AJ just goes to his own brain and then text himself.
I just call or text AJ, and he usually helps.
Yeah,
it's not true. It's not true.
AJ, any good? Brian, go ahead.
No, I was gonna tell Phil and Lexi just message AGD Reptiles and
at AGD Reptiles.
Everybody
bother AJ.
Everybody message AJD Reptiles. He'll answer your questions immediately.
I don't claim to have any original thoughts. I do claim that I'm a pretty good sponge. So I soak in a lot of info and then I think about it a lot. So that's all I do.
Just a growing spot for bacteria.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm just a wet sponge for ideas to grow on.
Stick you in the microwave every once in a while to
clean you up.
Yeah, just to re-up.
Sometimes I'll message Anthony Little Monsters and hey, what is this? And then sometimes he talks over my head and is like, can you say it a little bit more simple? You can message Anthony as well.
Yeah, I feel like half the time I talk to him, like if I talk to him on the phone, he'll say something and he's like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, no, I don't.
Anthony, we love you.
When he starts talking about all the layers and the chromatophores, I'm like, you're losing me right now. I'm trying to understand. I understand how the traits work, obviously, and whatever, how these things affect each other. But I'm like, when you're talking about all the different layers of skin and color and like how light refracts, I'm like, okay, now you're losing me.
Yeah.
How light refracts.
He gets very technical.
Yeah.
Set up that speed dial. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, right.
Some other question. We'll also chat about some other hot topics in a little bit, but a few questions before it gets lost in the chat. Let's see, what does Laguna say? Chatting with some earlier in regards to getting paper white in crested gecko pin/dorsals. Does anyone think there's any specific genetics other than that lily that affect paper white coloring? What do you guys think?
I don't think most of lily whites are paper white, I would say.
I agree.
I have more animals and had animals before lily whites that are significantly more white than lily whites.
It's kind of a bad name.
What?
Yeah, lily cream.
Lily cream almost looks like it doubles that pattern up. It's like if you look at like a regular Oreo and a double stuffed Oreo, like that's the lily white. It looks like that whole layer.
I like double stuffed Oreos.
Just doubled up.
I like the thin ones. Yeah.
So like when I look at like if I look at some of my animals that are more white than our lilies, the white part of it's almost like even slightly transparent to like the base layer, but like the lily white's just like thick. If that makes sense. But I'll say that like a lot of our lily whites are more like a cream cheese frosting color, you know, versus like the clean white frosting or whatever. And so they're a bit different.
Do you think the cappuccino gene would whiten that other?
Not guaranteed because cappuccinos have yellow too.
Yeah, that's the thing with it is like cap. It's kind of whack. Is that cap out of the egg is whiter, white. And then cap over time yellows.
Yes.
Oh,
interesting.
Like not even like cream. Like a lot of them go like highlighter
neon yellow.
But yeah, I mean, there's some lines that produce more white animals. I mean, you look at like Emily Burke's like tricolor
paper white
and stuff like that. And those are super clean. And you get them randomly pop up on like some other blonde harlequins or just other pinstripes that have really clean white pinstriping. But I would say like the harlequin pattern generally is going to be the hardest thing to get super clean white, like really clean white. And usually you're like, I like to tell people like, look at the color of the tail and like compare that to the body color. Cause a lot of the time the base of the tail is about as white as you're going to get on a lot of animals. There are some animals certainly that's not the case, but I would say a majority, like a lot of people like look at an animal in like a classified and they're wanting to know how white it is. Like I reference that to like the base of the tail, and that's among crested geckos are a lot of the time are pretty similar. And so I can kind of gauge like how yellow the rest of the body pattern is and how it compares to the tail coloration.
It seems like when I see the paper white animals, it seems pretty closely tied to what people describe as tricolors. Like I think I was talking to Brian. Was I talking to you about this, Brian? That there's very few yellows that have like paper white.
Yep.
Like they're in comparison, it seems like it is more cream than like that stark white. But I don't know. It just seems like I see the most of that in tricolors. Not saying it's not possible to put on other things, but
yeah,
I think that's what people have focused on cultivating it in. But I think you could, in theory, you should be able to put that on other things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you'd be able to put Emily Burke Paperwhite white onto your Frostline coverage?
I think you could. Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
You have to take a couple of steps sideways before you got to where you kind of want to go. But
the first generation animals you'd produce, you'd probably lose some of the best of both, and then you'd have to kind of like
you'd lose coverage, and
and the white wouldn't be as good as it should be.
Maybe some unwanted orange that is not part of what you're looking for, but then you just take the animals that are most like what you're looking for and start
stacking them.
I'd probably say like maybe 2-3 generations with selective line breeding would do that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that if you're going to do one of those,
but
if you're going to do one of those projects, I mean, that's probably the way to go. If you're trying to get something that, I mean, if it's something that doesn't exist, you're probably not going to get there by, perfect outcrossing,
Andrew, I was talking with you earlier about the Kahua and the crazy white Kahua you sent us, and then it's funny because Brian sent me the Ron Peteroy picture too. And we were talking. You were saying how it's hard to get that white consistently, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you get different variations, just like you get with crested geckos, where you get some stark white, you get some that are more like cream cheese frosting white, and then you get stuff that then even goes like lime green, fades in and out of lime green to like almost a charcoal color, depending on whether it's fired up or not. So you get a fair amount of variation there. But it's been getting better and better. I mean, when we first started with Kahua, you could get almost zero body white and just like
collar.
Okay collar.
Interesting.
But it's taken to hit it more consistently. You've got 10 or 15 years since 15 or 16 years since we started working on some of that stuff. And we got some nice white collars, but it took a while for like the body white to kind of start popping in.
I see.
And then trying to get that to spread out and expand and stay clean, because a lot of them will hatch out looking pretty clean, and then as they mature, that white will shift colors a little bit depending on the lines. So not all of them will stay super clean.
Got it.
I'm sure. I think Ron's been breeding that pair that produced that Kahua, that super white Kahua with that high coverage. He's been breeding that pair for a while, and he hasn't even come anything close to that.
Yeah, so I mentioned something to Chad about this. So this is like a perfect example of a gecko that was nicknamed L Bird Poop back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that.
Kevin Cantrell, I think Passport Herpetoculture was his name.
Mm-hmm.
He hatched out one that was not quite as nice as what Ron did, but for when it hatched out was like top 1%, and it came from a very, very mediocre looking pair of animals. So it definitely can happen. I don't know what actually finally syncs up that makes it happen, but a lot of the animals that do produce an animal like that kind of by fluke aren't gonna, that pairing's not gonna do it consistently at all. I don't think Kevin ever hatched out anything more than a very mediocre white collar. And just one out of however many he hatched out was quite exceptional.
Yeah. Do you think if you had, let's say, an animal like two animals like what Ron had, like two animals like he just hatched?
Yeah, you're going to produce them pretty consistently with stuff like that.
Would it be consistent then at that point?
I mean, we've got pairs here that don't look nearly as nice. I mean, they looked pretty sweet as babies, and then that pattern kind of shifted colors a little bit. And you can still see it when you know what you're looking for, that it was white when it was little. And some of them do stay white as adults. But we've got some pairings that are not really, when you look at them, exceptional, but consistently produce quite exceptional offspring. And then you have some pairings that you pair up and you're like super stoked and you think they're going to produce super awesome stuff. And you're just like, maybe 1 out of 10, even though the parents are pretty exceptional. So
yeah.
I sold, or I traded a couple of geckos to Mark up at Northern Gecko, and he was like, "What do you say?" He's like, "This gecko's ugly as shit or something." He's like, "It's just not that nice." I'm like, "The genetics on this thing are fantastic. Trust me." And he takes.
So you're ripping me off.
Well, I don't know if you saw the ones he had at Tinley, but those are from one of his high white mixed with that male.
What's that one?
So this guy doesn't look that great. Pull it back; it's out of focus.
Sorry. That better?
Yeah. So this guy doesn't look very exceptional, but produces some of our highest white offspring.
Really?
But if you
what animal is that?
If you look at the sides,
this is Mizzou.
If you look at the sides, I don't know if you can see it there, but like,
Harry, can you focus on their
Oh yeah, here.
screen
Let me
only?
pull you up. Let me pull you up.
That's
here.
you, buddy. So like, if you look at the sides, you can see a bunch of like pattern hidden in
Here.
the rest of the sides.
Yeah.
That was all
Okay.
white when it was little, but like now
Oh,
it's
wow.
like lime green. So this thing will
Oh.
turn white if you stick it under like a UV light, but just under its normal
I see.
activity level, it's like more of a greenish white color. It's not clean.
How old
But
is
this
she?
What do we produce him, like 2016
Oh, it's a boy.
or something?
Okay.
But like,
This is one of his offspring.
yeah, so like here's one of his offspring. Yep.
Oh yeah, he's a crazy
I'm
white
trying
collar.
to not get it too close because
yeah.
it'll just go out of focus. But like
Nice.
she's got a ton of white on her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like as a baby, this was all stark white.
Wow. Does
That's
white fade
interesting.
out as they age?
The white pattern will not spread like harlequin pattern on a crested gecko will.
They
Yeah.
don't get any more.
Okay.
No, it won't really spread out. I mean, maybe a little bit, but like the outline of it's pretty much going to be the same.
Okay.
But the intensity really just changes if like the base color kind of blends into. So like,
Yeah.
I've got some solid green animals that have no white on them, but if you compared the green side by side to like what was white on this as a hatchling, that's almost the same.
Yeah.
The solid green one's not going to produce anything with white on it.
Mm.
Interesting.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let me sneak a few more questions in. Do first year gecko pairs lay consistently? Do you have any tricks to encourage first year geckos? I guess mainly gargoyles for Gecko Cove to keep laying. AJ, you produce geckos, correct? I mean, not geckos.
He's got a few.
No.
None of those things. What are those things?
I would say it seems that if you can get the animals bigger when you breed them the first season, that helps. So like gargs, if you don't breed them too young, like a lot of people say, oh, 2 years and 45 grams or 2.5 years, 45 grams. It seems like gargs kind of crash when you do that and take a backwards dive for a clutch or two before they bounce back.
Yeah.
So it seems like if you can get them a little bigger in that like 50 something range before you breed them, you'll have a better first season. But first seasons just kind of are hit or miss. So
Harry, who was the guest you guys just had on for Gargs?
Red Rack Jake.
Yeah, so he said, and I would agree with that, that he almost looks as the first year is kind of like a throwaway season.
Yeah.
And like you're hoping to get maybe a clutch or two. And yeah, some might give you 3 or 4 clutches in the first season, but to not expect it. And that's kind of what we say with Kahoa too. It's like you hope to get good eggs and you might get 1 or a clutch. And you might get super lucky and get 8 or 10 eggs in one season from a first time pairing, but I wouldn't say it's the norm.
I mean, even for cresteds, it's not, maybe it's a little bit better, but even then it's not. There still seems to be a lot of inconsistency with first timers.
Virgin females for sure.
So if it's your first year breeding your first timers, then don't worry. A lot of inconsistent eggs. Some fertile, some infertiles, some 1 eggs, one fertile, one not. It's all over the place.
And then the
you
next
have to repair. I had to repair a couple times.
And then the next ones are both infertile.
Yeah.
And what are they doing?
Yeah. So I had to repair a couple of the first timers just to keep the cycle going. So, what do you think about Preston asked? What do you think about a possible cap producing a frap. Consider that a proven cap. Some people I've seen are still saying if it didn't produce a super, it's not a proven cap. That's a question for you.
Frap
Brian.
is proven. Frap is proven.
I think Lily. I think it's proven. Yeah,
we talked about this at Florafana a bit.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be. This is gonna have to be the new narrative. You can't. If you're gonna breed cap to cap so you can produce supers, come on, man. You're breeding unhealthy animals on purpose. It's not.
Well,
good.
I think Tiki's hit on this right before he had to bail at Florafana. And the question was to prove out whether you have a cap or not. Do you pair it to a known cap or a sibling in order to produce a super to prove it out? Well, David was just like, no, just pair it to a lily white, and if you produce a frap, you know.
Yep.
Then you'll get a Brian animal right here. You can see right here.
It's very distinguishable, so it's easy. Like you can tell right out of the egg. So when well, AJ, you'll be producing fraps hopefully this year, right?
Yeah.
So you'll know when you see that first frap, you'll be like, wow. I mean, it's gonna be like your sable lily white that you got. You know, it's gonna be like that.
It's just like super stark.
You know that you knew that was a sable lily white, right away.
Yeah. So. It's not like you've seen enough lilies that when you see something that is lily plus something else, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. Sam says seeing more influential people within the cap community start to move away from it's not proven unless it's produced a super. So yeah.
I think the people that say that are the people that are intentionally breeding supers.
That's awesome for sale.
And there's a bunch of people, and I think it's pretty messed up that there's the amount of people that are trying to breed Sorax and are trying to breed super caps, and they'll say, oh, you know, it's not that many that can't breathe. You know, it's only like 75%. That's pretty good.
Oh jeez. Oh man.
And that stuff is just bad.
Is there anything that can be mixed into the gecko's food or water that can be used as a parasite control for your collection?
I can take this one.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Rapashi tried this in a diet for entamoeba invadens that used to pop up and still could, in theory, pop up in New Cal collections. And I can't, was it ivermectin or metronidazole or something?
Yeah, it's I think it's flagell.
Maybe flagell, metronidazole. Basically was Crested Gecko diet with metronidazole in it, which would also take care of worms. Some nematodes.
Some parasites, but not many.
So it was basically kind of a dewormer and a potential like entamoeba like diet to try to help. But the issue is you have no idea how much the animals are eating. You know, okay, if I take an average animal and it's going to eat X number of grams of diet per its size, you can maybe get kind of a guess. But how many times do you have a gecko eat one lick of diet and then the one right next to it ate all of it? You have no idea to gauge that. So it's certainly not great. And then while your stingray just
that's what I'm laughing at too. The stingray is it's like dive bombing on the side.
I'm so distracted. I feel like I'm at the dentist's office.
We don't even. We're just. This is our whole podcast right here. We're just looking at the stingray.
Hey, can you black out Brian's face?
It's been a green screen this whole time. He's not even in front of a tank.
It's fun. It's funny because the stingray doesn't usually do this, but he knows that she knows I'm here doing this, and she's like doing it on purpose.
She's doing it again. She's like, I heard him talking about me.
She usually just chills on the sand. I don't know what she's doing.
She's like, Stuart, look what I can do.
That's so funny that you talk about metronidazole for treating geckos, because when I was bringing imported fish in, I would when I do quarantine my fish, I would treat metronidazole for usually 2 to 3 weeks prior, and then I would use there's another you could use also for like deworming Panicure, we use Panicure for reptiles too, but you could use that for for fish too. It's just so crazy how like they kind of like intertwine and you can use both.
Yeah. So the other thing about just like shotgun treating stuff like that is they can also build up a tolerance or a resilience to whatever you're trying to treat. So if you're only treating them with a 20% dose, let's say, of what they should be getting, then that might actually just be allowing that parasite to actually build up an immunity to whatever you're trying to treat them with, just like an antibiotic and stuff.
That's like the whole narrative with antibiotic resistance is to say they give you a 7-day supply and you take 3 days and stop. Well, maybe you knock the bug down 90%, but then now they're resistant and you didn't kill them all the way. Yeah. Yes, that's why they tell you, even if you feel better, take the full, course.
So I will still use diet or mix in something else if I need to like sweeten it up or like hand dose something if it's not taking whatever I'm trying to give them. Because some animals, you just shoot whatever you're trying to treat them in their mouth and they'll just shake it straight out. Like, because that stuff tastes awful. If you've ever tried it.
Have you tried it?
Brian said
Andrew trying diet.
Sarah's laughing her ass off because she pranked me one time with a Cadbury egg and a piece of metronidazole in there, which is like the most bitter, nastiest tasting shit you have ever.
That is the worst prank ever. You think it's a Cadbury egg and it's full of a dewormer?
Yeah. So
Sarah's like roofing you.
So here's how I got her back. Mine's much more creative. So I took the metronidazole and I crushed it up and I stuck it in the end of the toothpaste.
Oh no! Did you brush your teeth with it?
You guys should just make a TikTok of you guys pranking each other.
He was so freaking pissed because like I was laughing my ass off so hard when I knew that she had that shit in her mouth because she was like gagging in the bathroom. And she knew exactly what I did when she got it in her mouth.
It's like an episode of Jackass. You're like gagging. Like,
I mean, super bitter though.
I would compare it to Dramamine.
I
one time paid Kyle Salzman $20 to chew a Dramamine.
No.
He was
he did it?
He was gagging for like 20 minutes. We were on a road trip. It was totally worth
did
it.
that.
Oh man. Okay, let me
but I want to know,
go ahead, Brian.
Sarah, why did you like? Oh, you know what? I'm gonna put metronidazole on this Cadbury egg and give it to Andrew. Like, where did that idea come from?
I don't know.
That's funny. I love it, Sarah. We need more of that. Andrew needs more adventure in his life.
Yes. I honestly, I'm sure he did something to me where I thought I'm gonna.
But people like put like extreme hot sauce or something. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna put metronidazole.
He makes it sound like I filled it up. It was like a quarter of a little tablet.
It doesn't matter. It was freaking nasty.
Well, I used to work at a vet clinic too, so like even just counting out the pills, like if you have any of the residue on your hands and like wipe your face or something, and you
would taste it.
Yeah, gross.
That's funny. All right, Kyle Kim asked, our most timid gecko has had a shift in personality. Last couple weeks, constantly out walking around, interested in moving hands, but not live bugs. Last night, she started lightly biting my hands wherever it could find to bite. Some head twitching and cute little grunty sounds. She's about 35 grams. Is that normal?
Is she?
So
is it a girl?
I think,
I
think this is one of our customers that messaged on Instagram today, and so I'm assuming that this is
it's your gecko.
No comment on that yet. But
they're catching you on live stream because you didn't message them back. They're like, oh, I know it'll get them.
I messaged them, but I thought it would be a good topic here, so I thought I would get your guys' opinions, assuming it's the same animal, which is basically the same question. They'll probably verify in the comments, but I'll let you guys comment, and then Harry, if it is the same person, it's the one I sent you pictures of in a chat on Messenger.
Oh, okay. Let me pull that up as you guys chat.
Don't pull up the pictures yet. Don't pull up the pictures until they say.
Okay. No, I got you.
Sarah's asking if it's a male.
I mean, my first thought is I think it's a male.
That's what I think too.
Yeah.
I think it's a male I mean,
it's ready to breed.
Male breeding behavior.
It's sometimes your male smell females that you just held.
So you're gonna send the picture of a gecko with big balls.
Well, this is the animal in question here. After Harry pulls it up.
Okay.
Bring it up, Harry. Big balls.
Keep talking. It's gonna take me a little bit to pull it up.
Okay, that's fine.
In the meantime, AJ's dad says he vouches for his sponginess of information and absorbing all of the information.
Yeah, probably both.
Absorbing.
So yeah, the animal I believe was sold as no pores seen in like around 10 grams ish, maybe.
Okay.
8 to 10 grams. But
did you sell it?
Yeah.
Let me try to pull it up here. Sorry.
And so that was my initial reaction too. Is like, I mean, I see this for sure in like young males that are housed mostly by themselves, where they start doing this goofy head tilt, and then they start licking the air, and then they just try to bite you and mount your finger and do whatever gross things they're gonna do to you.
Shock
Take advantage of your hand.
I can't wait to see this little girl.
Okay, here. I think I got it.
Little angel.
Okay, let me present. How do I do this? Girl. How come it's not showing up?
Well, maybe it identifies as a girl.
Well, so that's the thing.
Out.
Is there was I think Sarah Berg at Rainy Day Geckos. She's got like basically a hermaphrodite kahua that they actually X-rayed.
Really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
What? Wait, it's not called hermaphrodite anymore. What was it that we?
I could be politically incorrect on that one. I might not know the correct terminology. So
Intersex.
Is
that what the? That's. I think that's the new term. You're not allowed to use hermaphrodite.
Okay, sorry.
Cancel him.
All right, I got it. Before he just gets off the rails, I think I got it.
I only found out about this last week, to tell you the truth.
Is this it, Andrew?
Yeah, 35 grams they said around.
Okay, that doesn't have.
Is there only one image?
Though.
I don't see big balls.
No, there's 3, right?
I see another one.
If not, I can.
Oh my gosh! Sorry.
So top shot.
The top side. Let me press this button. Here we go. It has no pores, or it looks like it has no pores.
Yeah, certainly like nothing obvious for being 35 grams. So, but I mean, then you get some, like if you got 2 females together, one of them might act like a male.
Wow.
I've definitely had breeding behavior between 2 females. I've just never had a female do it to my hand when I go into the cage or whatever, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of a brain twister.
Yeah. So I think it's just a strange acting female myself. But if I didn't see the pictures, I'd say, is it a male? It'd be the first thing out of my mouth for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
Do you know what to We're at a loss. Next question.
I'm sorry.
I think Hala Kim has a intersex gecko.
Yeah, maybe.
Or she just got one that's got an attitude of its own.
Or it just has very small hemipenes.
That's true.
Yeah. I got a kahua recently that had, and I asked you guys about this, and it was sold to me as a male. And it had like some pores, you could see it, but it didn't have a bulge, and it was 40 grams. And I asked several people, and I think we've determined that it's a female.
Yeah,
so, actually, one of my hybrids didn't pop a bulge until 50 grams.
Man, that's crazy. 50 grams?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that normal for hybrids? I mean, we don't.
No, I don't know. I could have sworn it was a female, and then it popped the bulge after 50 grams. I was like, holy
I gotta check mine. Mine's like 50 grams and doesn't have a bulge or pores.
Yeah, mine didn't. And mine didn't pop pores until later on too. Like it had like up until like 50 grams. It was like very small, around like not consistent pores, but it had a little pores. And now it's just like so defined.
You guys want to take a couple more questions, or you want to jump into some topics, hot topics you guys have on?
We can do this, and then let's topic.
Okay, let's do this one. This one's from Jack from College Tropicals. Is the way to producing mosaic gargoyles through a blotch, super blotch to stripe, super stripe, or is it the product of selectively breeding animals with a blend of the two phenos?
We don't produce gargoyles to give you an honest answer on that one, but I would venture a guess that, say, breeding a blotch to a stripe, you're going to get a fairly low percentage of what you're looking for, but you will probably hit it. And then you're going to get a mix of in between. And then if you were to breed two that look similar together, you're going to hit it certainly with a higher percentage.
Yeah.
Be my guess, but I can't say for sure on that.
Yeah, this question is for Tiki, for David. He has
we are not the experts on gargs.
Yeah, Tiki or Brian Susan or somebody.
Susan has mosaics?
Well, so mosaic is just, it's a real funky looking retic. It kind of goes into a stripe, right?
Yeah, let me try to pull up a picture
I've got a couple here, I think.
Oh, do you?
But
okay.
But we didn't produce them. We haven't bred them yet.
I have 2 gargoyles. I had 3, but the third one I got rid of. Well, never shipped, and I turned it down.
I don't know anything about that.
AJD's house.
I don't even want the 2 that I have.
Brian's not a garg guy, apparently.
I'm not a garg guy.
I don't think I could find it. Is this? This is a red stripe.
The 2 males we got in trade for that Kahua.
Harry, I'll probably dip out in like 20 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Bring up the hot topics.
Let's do a couple.
Yeah, let's talk about hot topics. Yeah, we'll talk more about this, Jack, in the future. Sorry, man.
Drama.
Okay, some hot topics. AJ, you have anything burning in your soul you want to share about?
No, let's just start. Let's just start the topic.
Okay, what are some hot topics
Is this like considered like mosaic, or is this still just a funky like retic? Oops. Sorry.
No, I don't think they would call that a mosaic. Let me pull you up.
Ow. It just took the crud out of me.
I have no idea.
I'd say that's more of a retic.
Okay.
Or like a blotch.
Stripey retic? I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. It's not the first time.
No worries, man. We're all learning together.
Not going to pretend like I knew
We're all figuring things out.
All right, Harry, what are some of our hot topics?
There are some hot topics we got pinged about. Some of the things we got pinged about were some aspects of care in terms of hatchlings and hatchlings coming out of eggs, egg cutting, things like that. What are you guys' thoughts on, I don't know if it's prematurely cutting eggs or just cutting eggs in general when it comes to cresteds? So let's start with this. What are some proper practices that you guys are comfortable with, and what do you guys do? Do you guys cut eggs?
I can just talk from my own perspective. So in the past, say I've had an animal hatch, a clutch mate hatch, and then the second animal goes 3-4 days and doesn't hatch. I think people's inclination is like, something's wrong, I have to cut the egg.
Yeah.
And oftentimes if it does go 3-4 plus days and doesn't hatch, there probably is something wrong with that animal, and it probably isn't going to cut out of the egg. But I never cut eggs. I will like give them a slight like agitation to get them to cut out themselves, for them to actually take their egg tooth and cut out of the egg. Because if you think about when the eggs are laid in their nesting site, when they're laid underground, under dirt, and so when the first hatchling hatches, as it's trying to emerge out of where it's laid, it's going to agitate the second egg to basically trigger hatching, or it could contribute. And so I think with the way that we incubate, sometimes that's not happening. So you can trigger hatching by basically taking the egg and rotating it, or maybe like slightly like with the tip of your finger, like tickling the edge of the egg. That sometimes will help them hatch. But no, anytime, like when I was newer in the hobby, if I cut an egg, even if it was an egg that was 3-4 days overdue hatching after its clutch mate, it typically never works out. You're not going to be happy with what happens typically.
Yeah.
I will say.
So you just leave it to run its course, whether they're clutch mates or not, even if it's several days. Okay.
Yeah, typically.
What are your incubation? What are your incubation times? I mean, for me personally, it's been about right around 60 for this season and last season.
Days?
60 days. How about you guys?
That's really fast.
Yeah. I'm about
mine
90.
are probably like 85, 90 probably.
So 60 days, you've got to be averaging probably 77 degrees in there.
Temps. It's currently it fluctuates, but it's currently around 72.
Wow.
Does it ever you heat that room though, right, Harry?
Yeah, so I move my eggs out when it gets hot.
Yeah, I would. I'd be.
So it's not consistent. The temps aren't consistent.
To see what the average temperature is, because the fastest I ever hatched, I ever hatched an egg out, I think when we were doing our stuff was 48 days, and that's at 82 degrees sustained the whole time.
Oh, okay. It's
with
hot.
like less than a degree of or half a degree of temperature fluctuation.
Yeah.
And the longest on a crested gecko, I think we went ballpark is like around 130 days, 125 to 130 days, and that's sustained at 68 the whole time.
Wow. Okay.
Ours right now fluctuate on average between 72 and 77, but nighttime temps can get down to 68 and upwards of 77 to 80 degrees, but those are still taking like 80 to 90 days.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I think this is where an incubator would help in terms of the consistency of temps.
Or but consistency isn't necessarily better. Because if you think about, obviously
I don't incubate them.
In soil temps are going to be more stable than air temps, but if you dig a crested gecko, I talked to Ron St. Peteroy, not St. Pierre.
Ron Peteroy.
Who's St. Pierre?
Ron St. Pierre. I don't know.
The guard. I'm probably screwing this all up. Who's is it Rack House?
Paul Morlock,
right? Sorry.
Yeah.
It was the talk of Kahua with Ron that got me all mixed up. So Paul Morlock and I were chatting, and he did some interesting experiences with seeing how deep different species would dig if given the opportunity to have like 18 inches of substrate or whatever to dig into. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of like crested geckos will very rarely dig more than like, say, 4 inches. Okay. But then like gargs might be at a certain layer and leechies might be at a certain layer. And so he said like gargs will dig way down, like as deep as you can give them. But the cresteds are only hitting like a certain point. So it's going to be probably the least stable temperature in the soil. So you're still going to get a fair amount of fluctuation. But, if you get 15 or 20 degrees of air temp fluctuation, you're probably only going to get like 6 to 8 of substrate fluctuation, I would think. It's not going to be nearly what you're seeing for the air temps, depending on how exposed to the sun and stuff they are. So if you allow some fluctuation, there have been some studies for not Mucal species that they can actually hatch out with more vigor because they've essentially been exposed to more temperature swings. So they're more acclimated to the actual environment that they hatch out in versus just being pegged at one temperature. They might actually be more susceptible to not doing well in colder temperatures or warmer temperatures. So I think a fluctuation is good personally.
Okay.
The only downside to it is it can actually cause the eggs to prematurely hatch if there's huge swings to go warm.
That's probably mine. Yeah.
And
I gotta watch it.
When you go cold, then you can have a swing where like, okay, maybe it's ready to hatch and it stays in the egg for extra time, or it just doesn't hatch out very vigorous because it hatches out in the cold swing of those temperatures versus like the middle to upper temps.
Yeah. Yeah.
But about cutting eggs, if we want to get back to that.
Yeah. Back to cutting eggs. Yeah.
We don't cut really ever, except for if we see, like we know a clutch mate is already hatched and we see the egg like start sweating. Like sweating is usually a sign of hatching or that there's an issue. So if I suspect there's an issue, I'm going to open the egg. But if I, And if I see like a slit on the end of the egg, but the gecko hasn't made it out, I absolutely am going to open that.
Yeah.
If I can tell the egg does not have that same like pressure within it, then I'm going to open the egg because it's probably already dead inside. But I've had a half a dozen cases where I find an egg that's pipped and the gecko is drowned and it's dead. And within 5 or 10 minutes of essentially doing like little chest compressions or just kind of tossing it around a little bit, it'll come back to life. And there have been stories on forums that will literally leave a gecko like that was found like looks perfectly fine, but like slit the egg and then drown in it, and they leave it in a deli cup and it's dead for like 8 hours, and then like overnight the thing comes back to life. Which I 100%
that does happen, yeah.
So I had something similar, not 8 hours, but it was like 1 hour, and I was like, this thing's dead. I just left it in deli cup, and then I came back down, and it was up, and it was running around the deli cup. I'm like, oh shit! It's
well, a lot of the time,
Andrew, tell the story about the gecko that you had that you found that was a little too cold that you told me once.
Oh. Yeah,
I always think about this story when I think about geckos getting too cold, and I had an experience when I shipped to Florida this, a little while ago where some animals got too cold. But tell this story; it's interesting.
So we had, I don't know, what do you think it was, like a 6-week-old, maybe 8-week-old crested gecko get out at our old house? Yeah, maybe 3 grams. Get out at our old house, and it was out for probably 3 or 4 weeks. And Sarah found it, and the thing's eyes were like frosted over, like it was next to a window, middle of basement,
winter.
like on
in the winter.
Windows, yes, like ice on the windows, right?
Oh no!
And this thing's like right next to it, like you couldn't pick a worse freaking spot to just like pass out. So this thing's, she's like, I found that gecko that's out, and it's kind of breathing, like it was taking like a breath a minute. Right. So this thing's eyes are like glazed over. It's just like completely stiff, basically, and taking like 1 breath a minute. And after like 30 minutes or 60 minutes of like just naturally warming up in a deli cup in the room, the thing is perfectly fine.
Oh, that's weird.
But the thing was like as close to frozen as you can have a crested gecko.
It's like a freaking popsicle. Its eyes are crystallized.
How resilient crested geckos really are. It's just amazing.
You know what they don't? You know what they don't like though? Being too wet.
Yeah, they don't like being too wet. That's real bad.
Tell us about it, AJ.
Oh
no, I mean, I just hate when I get geckos shipped. People ship me geckos that are like in like standing water in a deli cup, and then like, I mean, I've legit had like animals die that are shipped to me that way.
Yeah,
because they get saturated.
When we were first starting out, like almost killed an animal that we got in the winter driving it back from where we got it. And we had it in a box, maybe not an insulated box, but it was like down between Sarah's feet on the floor in the car. And that we didn't even think about it, but that foot vent was just roasting that thing. It acted similar to the one that was basically frozen. Like the thing was barely breathing like a couple times a minute. And after it kind of like we noticed it, thankfully, in time, it bounced back super quick and ended up being a fantastic breeder for us for quite a few years. But it was close, like another 5 minutes in that position. Because like in the winter, you don't really think about it. You're wearing boots, you're wearing pants, you
don't feel that.
And you don't feel that temperature fluctuation, but that thing was just getting baked.
Yeah. Brian, any thoughts on egg cutting? Why people do it?
I agree with every single person here, but I will bring up a little bit something where I see on social media of other breeders from not United States, right? Having you'll see the eggs and you'll see the perfect line slit on it, and then they're recording a video of it hatching, and it's like, how is that line so perfect? Are they cutting eggs early, especially on these new morphs, to like that way they can get it out of the egg as fast as possible? And it's
the egg tooth. It's like a perfect slice,
Oh yeah,
that's how it works. It's like on a level, and it's just like whoop.
The thing is, I think a well-experienced breeder can look at the animal, whether the egg is there or not, until
if it was cut out.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah, because they don't look like they have noodle arms. You know, when they look like they have like freaking noodle arms and they're like, you know, skin is still half translucent. That's not a full-term animal.
It's amazing. It amazes me to see these videos of a perfect line cut and oh wow, it's just gonna shoot right out the egg. Look at that. Wow.
Yeah, and I caught it on camera.
We definitely we'll definitely per year, I would say I maybe open a dozen eggs that like the egg an animal is viable and it's perfectly fine and it probably would have hatched out in 2 or 3 days, and for whatever reason it was just taking its dear sweet time. But in most cases it's deformed or it's literally like eyeballs and a spinal cord, and for whatever reason went full term. Like time wise or longer than like a normal incubation time, and that's what's inside of it. So I would say 90% of the time or more.
Siamese twins.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I get probably like 2 of those a year.
Yeah, we've got a few of those in some alcohol in some containers, some free show geckos.
Yeah.
Put in a little vial.
So, yeah, I think
about incubation temps though, AJ, on one of the episodes, it might have been when you were chatting with Celestial, you said something about the downsides of incubating too cold.
Yeah.
And I disagree with one part.
Which part?
You said that you feel like the head structure gets worse at a certain point.
I've seen that.
I personally never saw the head structure actually get worse from getting cold, but I did see hatchling size start to go down.
Okay.
And also hatchling vigor started to go down.
Okay.
So if they're, in my opinion, if they're incubated sustained at like below 72, they start to get smaller and they start to not hatch with like really any kind of vigor. So they hatch out and they're just kind of like lethargic, right? I mean, what happens to a nested gecko when you keep it at 60 degrees in the winter? Like it doesn't eat that much. It's not very active, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the hatchlings then do that. And then there's almost like a delay in how long it takes. I mean, you look at growth rates in the winter for people that have to deal with that. It's not very good, right? So I feel like you start to get that when you incubate too cold also.
So probably what I was witnessing, you know, I'm looking at them and I'm seeing lack of, you know, smaller size or whatever, and I'm probably just attributing poor head structure also to lack of physical size.
It could be. It could be. And I mean, there were some cases where they seemed to be okay, but I mean, there's a reason why we don't incubate ours sustained at a certain temperature anymore. Right now, we're not trying to figure anything out, but you can certainly influence hatchling color and head structure and tail size to a degree. And then also, who knows, maybe patterns and some other things to a certain extent, but they're so variable, it'd be hard to compare. That's why when we did it, we took clutch mates and we split them up after we had like a baseline of what the average looked like at room temperature fluctuations. And that way you have an idea of, say, how animals looked at room temp swings and then how those same full siblings look on either end of the spectrum of being cold or hot. And then you can compare colors and stuff. So,
yeah. Moral of the story, too cold equals not good.
And too hot
equals not good.
What is the proper swing temp, like within a range, within 6 degrees, 4 degrees?
I think 72 to 76 is pretty ideal anywhere in that range.
Yeah, maybe mine swung a little too high.
Well, that's when, if you do have a spike, I mean, I've had eggs get to like 86 to 90 degrees for a day, and it definitely will force hatchlings. I mean, thunderstorms and other things will force hatchlings too. So sometimes you'll have stuff hatch a week earlier than you think that it should, just because you have a gnarly thunderstorm or something, and babies all pop out kind of out of nowhere or something. So
that's so cool. I love when that happens.
As long as they keep all the tails and everything, right?
Yeah.
I think
but when I see
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when I see a forecasted like thunderstorm and in the breeding season, I'm like, I'm gonna get so many hatchlings tonight.
I got to prep 20 deli cups to stick them in for a bit.
Yeah.
Mark Orphis said he had like, I don't know, 5 or 10 adults all throw their tails during a thunderstorm once.
I know.
I've had like 2 max. but he has a lot more animals than me. So.
Yeah, that's gnarly.
So
we had one throw a tail when our tegu got out and was just walking around the room like
no.
Any cage or anything. And the gecko's like, oh, we had a couple, right?
Yeah, it was like 4.
It wasn't that many.
It
Maybe it was. It was a few.
I know Toulouse was one of them.
Yeah.
His tail
and there were animals that like had kept their tail for 5 or 6 years. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, don't need that anymore.
Wait, did you guys see on Facebook there was like a post about some guy? He like said, people, if your gecko drops a tail, you're doing something wrong. Bro, it was the funniest thing because like everybody shitted on this guy. They're like, that's bullshit, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah. He was just like, I don't know if he was trolling or really thinks. He goes, it has to be with your care that you're doing something wrong that the gecko dropped his tail.
To an extent, I think that's kind of
on juveniles. I would kind of agree.
There are some cases where animals just do it super easy, and then other ones I have kept animals together and had them like literally back 10 or 15 years ago will like chew the tail down to like it's just raw and there's like almost nothing left, and some of them then get nipped once and they throw it. So
yeah,
and I think AJ would probably agree. Like there are some color morphs and patterns that are more likely to lose their tail and lines of animals.
Yeah, so, there's some animals that are just absolutely psychotic. I don't know why. The common ancestor for that animal had some personality flaw.
Well, Alan Rapashi talked about this, I believe, on.
I heard that.
Project
that was cool.
Culture, where it was like the first generation, everything just chucked its tail, like almost.
He couldn't get any of them to adults.
That's interesting.
Keep a tail.
And so he was just keeping some of the ones that would hold their tails longer, and then over time, it's just gotten longer and longer and longer that they've been keeping their tails. So.
Yeah, I mean, because even in the wild, they don't. All of them are tailless, right?
Almost none of them have been found.
That's very interesting.
It's only like a couple animals total have been found.
Yeah,
with tails in the wild.
Yeah, so don't freak out if your animals are caught.
What's his face? Who went to New Caledonia? Dave Kaufman. He did a video of him there, and he found one gecko with a tail.
Nice.
I thought that was kind of cool.
That's cool.
He's like, and he was just saying prior to the trip, he's like, we're probably not going to find any geckos with tails because most of the wild stuff don't have tails. And then the first one he found had a damn tail.
Well, then that makes you wonder, like, where he found it and if it was in the same area that a lot of the first animals were found, or if it's in a different area where maybe those animals are less likely to drop their tails.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That common ancestor was more apt to keep its tail or whatever.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So basically you shouldn't cut eggs unless it's necessary for health.
I don't think unless there's like a medical emergency where you're like, I should cut it. But
don't cut it to expedite. Don't cut it to for whatever.
Don't cut it to have world's first of some morph. Don't cut it to have some gene faster than someone else.
What's interesting is you see a lot of like ball python keepers that will like cut a window in the egg and then leave the snake in there, and it keeps absorbing the yolk.
Oh yeah,
that's different.
That's very common there. That's super common in the ball python.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. But I mean, you can't really do that in a gecko egg.
Yeah,
they're very pressurized.
Even if it springs a little leak in the egg, like it's pretty much shot.
Yeah.
And then you see people with like tegus and stuff, like tickling the egg, and things are just popping out of the eggs. But I think what happens there is, like one is already hatched, and then you start tickling the other ones, because like AJ said, when those things hatch in the wild, one opens up and all the rest of them are like, shit, it's time to go, and they bail out. Or the predator comes in and starts digging up the nest, and it's a natural reaction for the thing to try to run away, so it hatches and tries to bail.
It's so crazy. Yeah, it comes out of the egg and they're just like frantically trying to run for their lives.
You guys want to talk a little bit about sable market and the pricing, any issues that you guys have seen there? And
I mean, no issues. They're just kind of dumping, which is what I expected. I mean, there's a bajillion of them being produced in Korea, so I mean, that's just naturally what's
flooded.
going to happen on an incomplete dominant gene. Is that
think
the price is going to reduce?
I don't know a ton about it, but I think what it'll probably do is it'll probably pretty quickly hit where lily whites were when they first were released.
Yeah.
I think initially lily whites were sold too cheap.
Agreed.
What was the pricing? I remember you guys mentioned it.
Bro, I bought mine for $600 a piece for males.
Brent, when they first came out.
Alan brought in the first ones to North America, along with I think maybe when Tiki's got a couple and maybe a couple other people.
I got mine at the same time as Tiki's.
Okay, so this might have been
I think Alan got him like a month or two before Tiki and I got him.
He paid $2,500 for adult males, I think, ballpark.
Yeah, okay.
But so those were sold too cheap, but they also held that value for quite some time for
long time,
like larger animals. And there was a stretch there where you couldn't get anything even unsexed for under like $1,000 or $1,200. I don't think for quite some time. So I think
there
weren't as many breeders, right? So
yeah. I think even with like Lily Exotics, they weren't selling a ton of them. You know, like when they would do a release, because I bought one on the first release and I bought one on the second release, and I bought males that were like in the 20-gram range, right? And they
screaming in the background.
I hear it a little bit, but the like the first wave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
The first wave that he offered, I think there'd be like 10 or 15 animals in the wave, and that was like what he offered per month.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't offering 200 a month that you could buy. It was like, oh, there was 10, and then there was a couple months that went by and there was 15, but these ones are females. Like it was trickled out much more slowly.
Yeah, well, so when you guys commented about like the number of keepers now versus 7 or 8 years ago when Lily's first started coming over here,
a lot less. Yeah.
So that's gonna create more people to produce them quicker, but it's also, in my opinion, going to keep the price higher because there's more people willing to spend the money to spread out what is produced for a little while. But then you're also going to see certain people drop the prices even quicker to try to get rid of them at a certain price and sell them super small.
Yeah.
And that's what I think you see on part of the Asian market coming over and selling them super tiny is because they're all trying to beat each other, actually getting the deals and selling the stuff so they don't get stuck with them.
Yeah, it's like some of those animals that just came in this past week. There was how many, Brian? Maybe like 6 or 8 people that got sables.
5 or 6.
But a lot of those animals that they received are 15 grams right now, but they bought them when they were 2 grams.
Yeah.
So those were animals
got it
several months ago. Yeah.
Some big name breeders got some sables on this last one.
Yeah.
They look good though.
Yeah, they look good.
Well,
no.
Gilpin's getting a sable. When are you getting a sable?
Gilpin. I can't wait till Andrew and Sarah get something crazy. And we got a frap, or we got a Xantic.
I'll get a sable when they get a sable.
I can't wait till Kyle Conades gets a Xantic. It'll be amazing.
That will be the end of the world if that happens.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll pick up some stuff at some point. I mean, there's some cool stuff you can make with it for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll play around with it at some point when the time is right.
I like them.
That's
They're
good.
cool. It's just I'm not crazy about it right now. I mean, it's a big craze right now, right? It's the biggest craze. It's probably one of the bigger craze in the hobby right now.
I'm just glad I didn't buy caps when it was like $100,000 for like one male and 3 females that are ready to breed.
I was just telling my wife. I was telling my wife when I hatched this the frap out. I'm like, do you believe a year ago this gecko was $20,000, $15,000 to $20,000, and now what is it, like a good one's like $2,000, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, it's
those Mandarin salamanders in the middle pick. Those things are sweet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Are they? Do we have any?
When I was in like 6th grade.
You can't have them now, can you? You can't.
Oh, it's not legal here.
They're freaking awesome though.
They're on the CITES list.
I got 2 of them for like $20 at a local pet store.
They're so cool.
I remember when I used to work at Petland Discounts, we had them.
Yeah, they're freaking
Emperor
sweet.
Newts. That's pretty
It's
cool.
so crazy because like all like most of the salamander and newt species you can't own anymore.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There's some cool ones though. Those Kaiser newts or whatever, those things are sick.
Yeah.
Those are cool. So to wrap up the sable thing, I think the state of the market is it's still pretty volatile. I think it's trying to find like a home base for price. But I think with what we see in Korea, we have like four main producers, 4 or 5, and they're just kind of like racing to the bottom on pricing to sell them. You know, they don't want to get stuck with them, so they're just like constantly underpricing each other, which doesn't help.
So that's what the problem is. So basically, we're pretty much at Korea's fate, right?
Yeah, because we're kind of at for pricing at least.
Yeah, whatever.
We're at their mercy.
Well, I mean, we only have 3 sable current breeders that are actually breeding sables right now. You got Gabby, you got Cindy, and you got Candace. Every other person that has them doesn't have them at breeding weight, size, or age. You know, so actually, one person just got an RTB female from Korea. I'm not going to name them on here publicly, but they just got their RTB on the last batch.
Okay.
So basically, Korea they basically make the pricing right now because they're the only ones supplying. They're the only ones supplying us with sables. So it's kind of like, I just don't like that. I don't like that at all. You know.
What were you gonna say, Andrew? Sorry.
I was just gonna say it's an interesting dynamic if you think about, say, if the Koreans had not gotten the sables, what would it have done in the States? Because there's so many more people to buy them.
Yeah.
More people working with them, the price would have like stayed up, I think, significantly longer. Versus you have 3 or 4 competitors over there producing quite a few of them, and then they're scrambling to unload them, and people are buying them here cheap at the same time. That's certainly not great for the people that are in the States that have them, that had like a price point set in mind for what they feel like they should be initially trickled out at. I don't work with them at all, so I can't really say, but it's just an interesting dynamic to kind of think about if that didn't, happen on that side in such a small isolated market in like such a small country, to just have those things spread out in a different way. It would have been completely different, I feel like, price wise.
It's also because they're mass producing them. All right. I mean, you guys don't have to agree with me, and I'm just gonna say it, but their breeding ethics suck. They don't freaking they don't care. You think they care about lineage on animals? You think they care about breeding, line breeding, or in not even line breeding, incest breeding. They're breeding brothers and sisters. They don't even care. They don't care about parents. Yeah. And they're just breeding anything they can just to breed so they can get as many animals as they can.
Not to try to prove something out, but just to breed it to produce as many offspring as possible.
Well, and to produce nicer offspring faster.
Yeah.
So it's like why would
not all Korean breeders, but a lot of them.
It seems to be a more norm in the culture there that there's it's very competitive, right? So I think that just seems to be.
That's what it is. It's a
more
competition.
Common.
It's a competition to them. They're competing against each other. Who could produce the most? Who can produce the nicest? And that's what it comes down to.
I mean, here in the States, like I don't think most people have the capacity to mass produce like that. Outside of like Pangea or AC. There's not that many people that can mass produce like that. Most of the breeders are just kind of like medium, small breeders that will take their time with projects, right?
And that's what keeps. That they can't. They choose not to.
Correct. Yeah, and so that's what keeps the prices up. Because
I'll also add that, you know what, in their small spaces, they can hold, like, we have like a kind of minimum standard of how we keep our breeders, right? Like, I keep my breeders in the 12, 18, 18, right? If you ever see, like, I'm not saying all of them, all right? We're not talking about all of their breeders.
Just the big,
talking about some.
Just the big mass producers, yes.
They keep adults. They keep adults in my in my hatchling size containers, and they keep adults in there. And from what I see in their pictures, because their social media is public, they don't even they have a little tiny plant that has like one leaf. You're lucky if they even have a perch in there.
Food bowl.
It's so sad. So in a 500 square foot space, they can keep 1,000 animals easily and breed millions of animals. So it's just it's so different how they operate versus how we operate. And like, I don't know
and the
about
mentality
you guys,
of like why we do what we do,
Yeah. I mean, once they got a hold of the Xanthics, then within the season, they mass produce these things, and the prices have.
Bro, I remember seeing Butler was still selling Xanthics for like $40K, and I remember seeing, I think it was Infinite Gecko post a video of a table with deli cupped
I remember that video.
It was like like 4 folding tables. The entire top of it was visual Xanthic and visual lily white.
Yeah,
it was like 200 Xanthic lily whites on this table.
Easy.
I was like,
and they're all adults almost, right?
Yeah, and they were still selling, air quotes, selling for $40,000 in the US, crazy. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, you can't even buy one here, and this guy's got 200 sitting on this table.
Is that? I mean, if it wasn't Korea, would have been somebody else. I feel like the market will always trend towards the highest.
There will always be somebody who's gonna do that,
Yeah. So it's almost like it's almost inevitable that this would happen.
All right. Yeah.
I feel like.
What?
Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
I was just gonna say, I feel like though in the U.S. market, it's a little different now because there are so many keepers.
Yeah.
But at least in the past, you would see, say, a certain animal sell for, I'm going to use like a Urodactylodes for an example. I think Agricola, when that was all you could get, and they should have been like $250 a baby. Well, then you see some random person on King Snake sell one for $175 or something, and they have 2, right? So in like the grand scheme of things, it might not really matter when all the other people are going to put them straight back to $250, and it was just this one fluke that the one person sold them for this cheap. I feel like, though, when you have that many animals and you have such a need to get rid of it, especially in like an isolated market like that, then it's pretty different the way that it will happen there versus in the States where you have, let's say, 20 breeders that all are similarly priced. Then you just have one person that decides to dump half a dozen animals at a certain price. It doesn't affect the market the same way as when you unload 20 or 30 or 40, and then the trend just keeps going in that direction,
Yeah, and it seems so from some of my like friends and connections over in Korea, it seems like a big issue with sable pricing was a lot of people bought caps like really high, right? They bought caps super expensive, and then cap price just dumped because RCK was making so many, and they were popping out left and right in the US, being bought at Petco's and all this stuff, and so people got really burned on caps. A lot of people did. And so when Sable popped and Sables became available, people were gun shy to buy them. I know for a fact that's a thing because I've heard it multiple times. And there's a reason why. So people thought Sables were caps. They were like, for sure it's cap, or I'm going to get burned just like cap. And so what do we see happen? Moo started giving certificates of authenticity.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that was trying to appease people that I guarantee it's not a cap. You know, I guarantee you're not going to get burned like you did at the caps. You know, and so I do think that helped, but I think the only reason that happened was because people didn't have confidence in the animal when it first came out because they got burned on caps. So I don't know, kind of sad, but
it's crazy. Man.
It doesn't take away from the fact that all these things we're playing with geckos for fun. Like it's like it's still amazing and fun. We're gonna make beautiful animals, and it's just interesting because we also are all in this like we're at least in the witnessing of the business side. Maybe you're not like super tied in, to the business side of it, but we all witness it at least. So it's interesting to see.
Now we just need the kahua prices drop a little bit.
No.
I'm kidding.
Don't say that.
30 geckos. Keep it at $30,000.
It's not like there's a lot of them moving for that, but there's a few here and there.
Yeah.
I got another year before. Like I got like 8 pairs of kahua now, so it's like I got another year before they start breeding. So like, let's keep it high until I breed.
The thing is they just don't produce that many animals too, so you're not going to have these things winged. And then again, you'll see some people that do really well with like a pair or two, and they get 10 babies in the first season, and then they think it's super easy and they sell them for cheap because they just want to get rid of them. But in the long term, they're going to be more stable just because they're not as consistent to produce, and it takes a hell of a lot more out of the females to get them to produce. And then you've got 3 years before most of the females are actually like reproducing safely, and even when they're in perfect health, they still have issues. So I don't think it'll be quite the same, but you'll still see some fluctuations. Still see some people sell them for more than maybe what they should be going for, or less than what they should be going for, and it all balances out somehow. So
yeah.
Don't worry. When I start breeding them, the price will come down just because it's my luck.
Not because you used to do it.
It's like the damn fraps, man. Fraps, I finally produced it, man. It dropped $15,000.
Sorry, you didn't invest much in it, so you're okay.
But still, it's just like, I mean, it's still crazy. It doesn't bother me. I don't want to make it seem like it bothered me. It doesn't bother me at all.
Well, I'm always just super stoked to sell somebody their first gecko.
Yeah, I love
that. Yeah, that's the best.
It's like my favorite thing, or like chatting with a kid for like an hour at a show, and like the parents are just super stoked about getting the one-on-one attention, and learning everything, and then that kid gets a gecko.
Yeah.
I've got somebody coming over on Friday afternoon to pick up their 9-year-old's first crescent.
That's awesome.
I like that.
I love that stuff,
Yeah, I'll get messages. People will send me a picture like, "Oh, I got my first gecko." It's like, "Oh, that's the best." Like
it was so funny. I'll tell you guys this story. I didn't tell Andrew this yet, but when I was at the show, I was at the Greensboro like local show this weekend, and this guy came up to me. And he's like, "Hey, I feel like I know you from somewhere." And I'm like, "From where?" And he's like, "Have you always lived here?" And I'm like, "No, I'm from Illinois." And he goes, "I've been in your house before." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
That's freaking creepy.
Super creepy. So he reveals to me that one of my friends in high school, named Molly, that was his cousin, and he had come from North Carolina to Illinois to visit his cousin.
Wow.
And she had said, "Oh, this guy I know has reptiles, and you like reptiles. I'll bring you over to his house so you can see him." So he was like probably 11, and I was like 16.
Oh wow!
And he came, and I reconnected with him at this local show down here, and he's still into reptiles, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
So not that I didn't get him into it, but it's cool that like I think once a reptile person, you're kind of always a reptile person.
Yeah.
I don't think you can ever like wash your hands of it and just be completely
We've
out.
had a few weird cases with just other things, whether related to reptiles or not. But like Devin Hughes, we sold him geckos when he lived down in Florida, and then for whatever reason he moved to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, like 30 minutes from here, and then he helped us take care of animals and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
You get some crazy stuff like that, or
that's sweet.
We met one of Brian Susan's friends when we were down in Florida on a road trip one time.
Texas.
Well, we met him in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
We got pizza with him, and I only met him the one time. And then we ran into him at a gas station in Texas. And Brian Susan was supposed to be with us on the trip, but didn't make it. So I mean, you get into some crazy stuff where it's like, I think that's this person. Like, I don't even really know him, but I met him once, and I think I'm friends with him on Facebook, and call him out at a gas station, middle of nowhere, and it's that person. I mean,
wow. I ran into Teresa Vemmer and Ryan. I think at the LGP? Airport. Yeah, LGP. I ran into them at the airport in Las Vegas.
Were they going on like a family vacation or something?
Yeah, like I think Natasha and I were going on our connecting flight for our honeymoon, and we ran into them like coming back from a vacation.
That's crazy.
That's so wild.
It was cool though.
Cool. That's the best, man.
It shows how small the world is.
Yeah, seriously.
That's the best.
All right, any other hot topics, Harry? Or I'm gonna hop off in a second.
Dude, your 20 minutes is like our phone conversation.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say 20 minutes. I said it'll be on for like an hour and something. But
yeah, but you said
20 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm gonna take that as my moment. Okay.
Wait, before you leave, a couple more minutes. Okay, feeding. I know we were talking about feeding.
Oh my
You're mixing things in.
Oh yeah.
We're talking about Chad, Kamano Geckos, and we're talking about how he was mixing in pineapples into his diet, right?
Yeah, I was saying, so I told Chad I did that this last week, and the reason I did it is because back in the day, I remember Andrew did it, so I was like, oh. I remember the canned pineapple, drain that juice out.
That was number one.
Chunks of rings.
Doesn't matter, it's getting blended.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So
I think you get more
water,
value
no syrup.
Or I think you get more value in the rings. I think it's a better way.
More value in the rings, yeah.
No,
price per ounce is better.
Pieces. Yeah.
But that was like probably one of the number one things. So I tested because Alan had a theory that like based on the pH of the final product, like the geckos will go after it a certain way. So I was measuring the pH of mixed diet with swapping in different fruits to see if like the pH level affected like how well the animals went after it. I didn't notice like a direct correlation with like the pH reading, but for sure they went nuts for like pineapple stuff. And I mean, he's got a product called Pineapple Express, but honestly, I don't think they go after it as well as a couple of the other ones.
Is that from Rapashi?
Yeah, when I did, we do buy it and they do go after it, but I don't think it's as strong as a feeding response as like their mulberry one and some of the other ones. But the canned pineapple, that was a pretty big hit. That was back when Rapashi sold it in 2 parts, when you could get the sweetener side of the diet and whatever flavor you want, and then the base. And so you could just not do the sweetener side, and you could throw in a certain amount of fruit, and then you'd have the base, and you would get it pretty close to kind of what you want.
I forgot he did that.
And that was pretty interesting. He also also tried running a diet calculator that you could make your own diet on his website. Whatever you wanted to throw in there, pick the percentages, and they would put it together for you. And it was almost the same price as just like a retail pound of whatever you were going to buy, but you can make literally whatever you wanted. He spent a bunch of money.
How long did that last?
Nobody bought it. I tested it out and it worked.
Nobody bought it.
No, I mean, well, because he never advertised it. He spent quite a lot of money on like the website and the calculator and like making it all work. But I think on the back end, it just was such a pain in the ass for the guys to like, make individual batches of diet.
That sounds like a total nightmare.
I could see if you're like going to buy a minimum of 100 pounds or something, right? Then it would kind of make sense.
So it would make sense for like 4 customers.
I actually got photos of the calculator and like the website.
I remember seeing it. Yeah.
I want to order 1 pound of it only.
We kind of pimped it at one of the Tinley shows. Remember, we were in one of the hotel rooms, and I went through the whole thing with like a bunch of the gecko breeders on how to like build their own diet using his diet thing. It's pretty cool, but never caught on.
Yeah. Do you guys currently mix stuff into your diets? Do you add like fruit into it?
Occasionally do a banana or something like that. But not usually.
So we mix Rapashi and Pangea 50-50 right now. And we have like 2 or 3 varieties of each. And we like the consistency that the 2 products mixed together are. And also in the past, there have been rumors of, say, an issue with Pangea causing a problem or Rapashi causing a problem in like an entire collection over like a breeding season. So I feel like you're kind of not putting all your eggs in one basket, so to speak.
It's also nice when you sell an animal because people are going to
What do they eat? Anything.
Yeah, they
eat both.
They get a variety. So we have like 2 or 3 favorites of both Repashy and Pangea, and we just take one of each of those 2 or 3 products of each and mix them 50-50. And then sometimes we'll chuck like a banana in there or a handful of blueberries or something just to change it up. When we do, we'll usually do like a small scoop of like calcium plus or something just to kind of, enhance the straight fruit that we're adding into it or whatever. Hey, I've got a question for you guys. Have any of you tried black soldier fly larvae yet?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but
Brian has to.
You don't sound too thrilled about it. What? Pass?
Yeah. I just don't think it's like commercially viable for any significant size of collection.
So I agree with that, but we tested out a sample and
from Grub Terra.
Well, I'm not going to name a brand, but I think it really
well, did you have to?
So Andrew didn't receive bugs from Grub Terra. No.
Andrew, you weren't emailed several times from Grub Terra, like the rest of us.
I just don't think that they're very palatable for the animals, and a lot of them just pass like straight through with like.
It's like a kernel of corn. That's what Chad says. Chad's like, yeah, after you don't cut them in half, they just go through like corn.
I don't know. I mean, most of the stuff just did not really eat it, and it seems like a lot of the reviews when you check just various vendors of them, it's like, okay, bearded dragons eat them well, and bearded dragons love the flies or whatever. But I just don't think it's very viable for most gecko keepers to use them as like a staple. So, and I mean, they're pretty expensive for like what you're getting for the volume or like the weight of that feeder for like in comparison to say like crickets or anything like that.
They're also pretty disgusting. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh my god,
they've got to be the grossest feeder I've ever worked with.
Do they smell like maggots? No,
they're like straight up maggots. And
like a large, not quite as gross as a maggot, but it's a maggot.
I rather eat wax worms.
And
I
mean, I think they feed them almost entirely like animal waste. So
I had gotten
load them really.
I had gotten black soldier flies larvae before like this whole thing with this guy that reaches out, Grub Terra. Hey, you want to do our product? Just give me a reel, you know. And then all of a sudden, my feed became like 20 breeders. Hey guys, look at what I got! I got Grub Terra. It's so good. It's so great. My geckos.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing is like if somebody gives you something for free and they just want a reel, like I don't think they would want the reel that I would make.
Hey guys, the geckos love it as they're taking the tongue and shoving it down their throat. They love them.
So we've got those green keeled lizards. And like those things will eat anything out of my fingertips. And I fed one of them one, and then it was just like, I don't know. And the other one was like, that one didn't seem to like it that much, so I'm out. And usually they're like or whatever I put in there. It's just like I'm not super interested in that.
So what should do is let those larvae hatch into black soldier flies, and then feed it to your green keeled lizards because they love that hunt, man. They'll go crazy for that.
I'm not surprised. I'm thinking about whatever's left over in the cups, just dumping in my kahua cages because I think those things would go after them as adults too.
Yeah. So the problem.
All right, I'm leaving. Goodbye. I can never find a good exit point. See you guys.
All right. Wait. So back to you mix stuff into your. Brian, you mix bananas or no?
I wanted to go on the black soldier flies. So I had got them, and my geckos didn't eat them, so I had to I didn't know what to do with it, and they all turned into the black soldier flies. And now I have them all in my basement, and I'm catching them. So
oh my gosh.
I don't like squishing bugs, right? I don't like squishing bugs. Like, it's just me, my nature. I don't like killing animals, insects, and stuff. If I can catch a bug, I'll let it fly outside freely, try to let it live, right? But
but you don't really want to do that with a non-native species.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
That's not ideal.
Yeah, but you know what? It was winter time. So
Okay, yeah,
I knew.
Good luck, buddy. Peace.
Yeah,
I'm not
If
killing you
survive,
directly. I'm just killing you indirectly.
yeah. But I wasn't letting them go outside because I would catch them and they would bite the shit out of me. My hand, like, oh fuck, this thing hurts. So now I was killing these things.
Oh, I didn't know that they bit.
Yeah, they bite, man.
Get him out of here.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
man.
that's my
Have you guys
black soldier fly thing.
Have you guys tried grasshoppers, Andrew?
Brian Susan is working with those for some stuff, and he says they're pretty interesting. The downside is you need a pretty decent amount of space in order to properly like raise and care for them.
Yeah.
I feel like,
Yeah.
Like ideally, like some pretty large screen, like mesh cages and pretty decent ventilation, but high humidity. So it's certainly not commercially viable for a large operation, but if you're looking at something for like a supplement, or you have like a greenhouse where you can set up some cages or something, and it's not like taking up house or space in your house, and I think they could be a very good alternate feeder to offer some variety.
Yeah, grasshoppers. Yeah, Dennis says the black soldier fly calcium content's much lower because of the.
Yeah, they're not actually digesting whatever they're taking in. Well, I mean, most of these things pass through like almost completely undigested. So at that point, they're pretty worthless, I feel like.
Yeah, they come out whole in frogs.
So this
crazy.
podcast is obviously not sponsored by Grubterra.
I mean, I think there's a viable use for them. Obviously, people use it
for
in
chickens.
powder
for
chickens or whatever, sure. But I just don't think that in the larva form it's viable for most reptiles. I don't think it's good.
Yeah, they use them as chicken feed. Really, that's what they were.
Interesting.
And to grind it up and use it in diet. But
they supposedly have high calcium, but if your gecko's not digesting it, you're not getting it, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Come on, hold and bury these two.
So for the 65, 70 people in here, don't waste your money.
We're not going to sponsor or unsponsor anybody. We're just critiquing.
Yeah,
we're critiquing.
Tried them out, but it sounds like most people's experience has been similar to mine. So,
yeah, we're just trying to save your animals and your pockets.
Yeah,
our Tokay is going again.
I can't wait till mine starts making those noises.
Yeah, Andrew, have you heard anything about the Calcium Plus from Rapashi and the vitamins in it? And whether it's detrimental to the geckos and whatnot. You hear anything about that or no?
I have not heard any rumors about that. Do you have something specific that has come up that like people are referencing, or where I might be able to get more information on it? I
heard it from Dennis, and I just came to mind. Dennis mentioned something about the Calcium Plus. So I was just curious if you knew about it.
I've been using it for quite some time. I know quite a few breeders, Gecko Ranch, and people that work with a large variety of animals that use it. And at least based on like what I know on the label, and I'm not a nutritionist by any stretch of the imagination, but I have seen quite a few vets and nutritionists look at least what the analysis on the label and say that they think that it's some of the best balanced products just across the board. Yeah. But I also don't know how well some of those products might hold up for shelf life or long term after they've been opened, or if they're subjected to certain climate, changes, higher temps or high humidity and stuff like that. And so a lot of those products do have an expiration date on them. And I have heard from some people that they have had issues with Calcium Plus or Mineral or other products that they buy that are maybe not kept properly long term and then have an issue. So I can't say that I've specifically had issues related to the product. I still like all of our Kahua eggs, which I think is a pretty good, reference point for egg calcification and stuff like that. I have very, very few issues with egg calcification. I do have issues with wavy tails and like the head issue and stuff like that, but I don't think that that's necessarily calcium related. I think that's more fatty, fat reserves that are being depleted, or other, other things that are being pulled from the body, not specifically calcium.
Okay.
In my opinion, after consultations with a vet, a reptile vet, and stuff on that stuff. So We're always trying new stuff though, because not everything works, and a lot of people will tell you to use 2 or 3 different supplements, like have a multivitamin from 2 or 3 different brands, and to use them, in case there is an issue with one, you're getting different micronutrients and other things maybe balance out in another product. So Calcium Plus is almost every feeding, unless if we feel like it's too much in certain animals, like that show very obvious, like huge calcium sacs, like Uroplatus fantasticus or Phelsuma, or animals that have very large calcium sacs. I don't feel like, granted, we also don't feed a ton of live food. So maybe if we were feeding live food 3 times a week, I would probably not do a calcium supplement every feeding for that.
Yeah.
We for a lot of our crested geckos and stuff, they're only getting live food once a week. So I don't feel like you're overdoing it with that. But I think if you're doing 2 or 3 times a week, you would want to alternate with supplementation on feeders, unless if you feel like you're not supplementing enough for some reason.
Yeah.
How much gecko diet are you making? You make them weekly? You make it weekly?
We mix it up at least twice a week for diet. I don't feel like they go for it that well after it's been refrigerated more than like a day.
Okay.
Like they'll eat it in a pinch. I don't think it's like unhealthy for them to eat it. I just don't think that the food drive is as good after it sits in the fridge for 3 days.
Okay. So how many ounces of diet do you do each feeding? Roughly. Yeah.
They're half cups. So it's 3. So 6 cups of water and 3 cups of diet.
So that makes roughly like 32 ounces of diet.
Or 9 times mixed. 4. Yeah.
Yeah, 36. Yeah, about 36.
Yeah.
So what's the Calcium Plus? How much do you put into that? Like how many tablespoons, teaspoons?
Zero, unless if I am adding fruit or something that's not in one of the diets already off the shelf.
Okay, so you don't put Calcium Plus into there?
No.
So how do you supplement the Calcium Plus?
On insect, like feeders.
Oh, just on insects.
You dust them.
Oh, okay. So that's what I do too. Yeah. I thought you were mixing it into your diet.
Yeah, no. So the only time I add is if I chuck a banana in there, I'll take like a small scoop. I'm not like dumping a heap on there, like
just because banana has high phosphorus.
Or just in general, like I'm throwing the balance off. I feel like adding a little bit of calcium or whatever is maybe going to help balance it out. Do I need to? I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a nutritionist. It just seems like a good idea.
Well, no, actually, it does actually because banana is actually the calcium to phosphorus ratio is actually very low. So if you're supplementing the calcium to make it even and balance it out, it makes actually a lot of sense when you're adding banana, especially banana.
Yeah. So I don't do a ton. I like if we've got a blender that's like this big, I'm just going to do like a very light dusting over a decent amount of like that surface. It's not like a heaping scoop. It's like some of those things come with like a measuring scoop that's like
dinky,
less
like
than
half a teaspoon,
like less than a quarter size,
right?
Like maybe even dime size scoop. Like I'm just putting one of those in there. It's not a lot. And then we are trying various calcium supplementation manually with the female kahua. And the reason I don't add that into the diet is because I don't want everything to get it. The egg calcification is good on like all of the crested geckos. I don't have any calcium crashes or anything like that. But we do, at least in previous years, have seen like maybe 1 or 2 female kahua have a like legitimate calcium crash type issue. So I don't feel like those diets are very well balanced for adult female breeding kahua. But for like crested geckos, I think they're pretty dialed.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Personally. So we've got a product called Rescue Cal from Repashy that's like a powder that you mix with water to make a liquid calcium. And then we also got calcium gluconate, and so we do that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
D3 or not, I believe calcium plus has D3 in it.
Yeah.
But we do
should we use D3?
We do keep calcium here with Repashy makes a product called calcium, like no D, low D, medium D, and high D.
What's
and
the right way to go?
Yeah. So it depends on whether you're offering them UV light or not, and stuff like that as to whether you want to use D3 or not.
Yeah.
So if they're using UV lights, you don't need D3.
No,
because they can absorb.
Yeah.
Give them
D3
the D.
will help them absorb it.
Yeah.
Give them the D.
Give them the D. Give them the big D or little D. Medium D.
You want the big D, the medium D.
Yeah. Sometimes the medium D is enough.
So there's your answer. D3 if you don't use UV.
Sometimes
UV.
the little D is not enough.
Yeah.
It really depends on how it's applied.
That's what I've heard, but
Nah.
Any outside more live questions? Feel free to ask. We'll take a few more minutes.
I want some.
Any other burning? Oh, go ahead, Brian. What'd you say?
Oh, no, I want some really saucy questions, man.
So the juicy Brian is the one that wants to get into the dirt. So if you guys
listen, I mean,
I can see Brian like burning. He's like, let me just talk. Let me just go.
Talk some smack, I think.
Yeah. Oh man.
Nah, pretty cool. I don't like that.
Right.
Yeah, I know. For fun, we were talking about that one guy, and you were like, "I'd beat him up myself and rob him."
Did I say that? I don't remember.
Well, the guy was talking about having that giant wad of cash and ripping out of his pocket.
Oh yeah.
I'd beat him up myself and take it.
Oh yeah, that's what I would do.
No.
Yep.
Question from Dennis: if you're using liquid calcium, what's the dosage like? Oh,
that's a great question.
That is a good question. Yeah.
Down somewhere.
We have it written down, but honestly, it's we're giving it to them in low enough doses and maybe once a month or once every couple weeks, depending on how the female looks, that I'm not super specific on measurement. I feel like, you can obviously over supplement calcium.
Yeah.
And you can see under supplementation sometimes in the eggs, but I don't feel like that's always a good indicator as to whether the animal is absorbing and utilizing the calcium. Because some animals might have giant calcium sacs and still produce crap eggs. Or I've had animals that look like they have proper calcium storage and female kahua that still calcium crash. So I don't think that's it might be a decent guide, but I don't think it's for sure, this animal is utilizing calcium that it's taking, and maybe it's just storing it. I don't know.
Interesting.
So
do you drop it in the food? I've heard some people put it directly on their nose or the mouth. What's the proper way to do it?
The calcium or the rescue cal, it's not super palatable by itself. And by the way, I try myself everything that I give to the animals. Even if it's got bugs in it or whatever, I taste it. If something tastes bitter and shitty to me, I don't expect my geckos to eat it. So the rescue cal is more than just a liquid calcium. I don't have it right in front of me.
But it has flavor.
It's got some other things added to it, but it does not taste great. It's a little bitter. So I'll add a little bit of honey to it. And then I've got syringes that are 1 mil for the whole syringe. So it's pretty fine. So you can give them a tiny bit. And so I'll just give them, 4 or 6 little drops off of the dropper. And that's for an adult kahua. So you don't want to be just launching the stuff in the diet. And if I have one that just doesn't really seem to take it, then I'll just add 3 or 4 drops to the diet.
Got it.
And hope they eat it.
Flavored too. We got ours
banana flavored or mango
strawberry
or
banana flavor.
Okay.
I use Bug Delight liquid calcium. And it's actually,
where do you get that from?
I think it's bugdelight.com actually. And they come in different flavors. There's maybe 6 different flavors. I've actually tasted it. And I was like, oh, this isn't bad. It tastes a little bit like medicine, but it's sweet though.
Yeah, it's if you got to drink some Pepto-Bismol or something. It's not terrible, but it's it's tolerable.
It's tolerable.
Yeah. Andrew says Beautiful Dragons makes a good liquid banana flavor.
Cool. That's good to know.
Penny says Bug Delight makes flavored calcium too.
Let me see.
Yeah, Sam says Bug Delight.
Sarah's taking some notes so we can have stuff to try out.
So Bug Delight, Sarah. Bug Delight. They make
So I have,
and then beautiful dragons from White Tanks from Andrew.
Yeah, okay. I think that might be
nice.
the stick that we got.
Is that mango?
We haven't tried it yet.
Where's that from, Brian?
That's from, these are from Bug Delight. Actually.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, cool. That's the stuff we just got in, but we haven't tried it out yet.
Yeah, it's
Would you try
good. And you know, it's actually pretty good.
It's still in the plastic wrapper. Yeah, okay.
So it's actually pretty good because there's a weight chart here that tells you like if the animal's like 25 to 50 grams, you give 0.02 milliliters. So like they actually give you a dosing amount.
0.02
like
or 0.2?
0.02.
Damn, that's like nothing.
Yeah, because well, it depends on how because these are pretty concentrated, so you have to be careful. Like
that's really concentrated. The Repashy has a breakdown on how to mix it, but I think that they're expecting. I don't know if it says on the product, but I think they're wanting like a vet consultation to actually calculate dosage based on weight.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's good that it's got the chart on. I haven't looked at it that close, but yeah, that's well under a drop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bub says
you refrigerated it, right? It tells you to. They tell you to refrigerate it.
I haven't opened it yet, but yes, it does say once open to refrigerate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good. This is good information. Here's one for you guys. You guys talked about this at Flora Fauna in terms of line breeding versus inbreeding. We talk about this. I mean, it comes up quite a bit, but we won't take a super long time, and I'll let you guys go in a little bit. I won't hold you here hostage forever, but are they the same issues with it in Cresties? What is the proper way to do it?
For me, line breeding I think it's different. There's two different things. Inbreeding and line breeding is different. Line breeding inbreeding, I would say brother to sister would be inbreeding, right? You got two very identical animals that are very, very, very close related. Breeding, and then you're just breeding it together, which is probably the most no you can do.
Yeah, it wouldn't have to be siblings, and I mean technically with humans it has to go to third cousins before it's legal in most states, depending on what state you're talking about. So I would think at that point you would be diversified enough to consider it not close enough related that it's going to probably be creating issues. But for animals, I think it's a little different because in my mind, I have to look at what's the likelihood in the wild of this animal finding a related animal and potentially bringing to it. It's pretty high.
Yes.
Because they don't stray too far from where they are. They stay in like a general state.
I kind of keep that in mind. Either way, in my mind, so I refer to stuff as selective breeding, line breeding, and inbreeding. To me, line breeding and inbreeding is inbreeding because you are taking an animal, in my understanding, you're taking an animal that is still related to some degree and you're breeding it back into stuff, even though it's been outcrossed to an extent. In my opinion,
grandfather to it.
Yeah, if you're talking about it's a grandfather and you've got some diversification from 3 or 4 other animals mixed in, bred to like a grandson or a great grandson, I don't think that's a big deal. And there's no issue there. If you're talking about inbreeding and doing like sibling to sibling or sibling back to parent, I would consider that more obvious inbreeding, which I think is what Brian was getting at.
Yeah.
And
but if you follow AKC standards in terms of dogs, though, selective and inbreeding is different in different ways because you can line like they allow on the tree that you can breed, so you can breed daughter to father, right? In dog AKC, right, without any problems and legally without having issues or being disqualified in your lines. And so during championship bloodlines, you can breed father to daughter. After that generation, I think you have to breed out. Like you can't, you have to outcross, and then because you can't continue that line X amount. I don't know if it's like 2 or 3 generations, but there's a cutoff pretty much. Yeah. And then because then there becomes issues because dogs are so dogs are so line bred that it's crazy, especially on like the purebred stuff. So that's it's just.
I guess I didn't say what, like, for selective breeding, I don't think about that. Like, for me, when I just differentiate selective versus line versus inbreeding, I just think of selective breeding as taking like looking animals that are, as to my knowledge, completely unrelated and breeding those together. Mm-hmm. So keeping the best of a pair and trying to outsource and pair it to something else that's as similar looking as I can. But as far as I know, they're not related at all. And then you go to line breeding, which is going to have some of the same genetics somewhere in there. So long as it's not, I mean, maybe not as specifically as like sibling to sibling, but I would still consider. So what they're all inbreeding technically.
Yeah.
But the difference is
diversity in genetics. Yeah.
I think diversity is most important.
At this point, sure. I mean, if we're talking about specifically New Caledonian species, maybe I don't know. But I would disagree that they're all inbreeding at this point. There's so many freaking animals that are produced every year that are, even if they're split up, I mean, you've got so many that have been bred by another breeder for 10 or 20 generations.
Yeah,
they might have only come from 100 or 200 animals, but you're still diversifying by splitting that up. You could have a genetic mutation, a negative genetic mutation pop up in one line, and then that person is specifically inbreeding those, and you're going to get completely different results than something that came from one of those great grandparents and has been bred to unrelated animals. So I would disagree with that statement, I guess.
So it's like lily whites. They're all related. Right?
Yeah, but the nice thing about
you can't breed them back together.
Incomplete dominant traits is people aren't intentionally breeding them together because it's not great. You have a bad outcome. So they are related, but you're not breeding them together.
Yeah, no.
Right?
But people are breeding caps together, and they're probably all related too, right?
Well, yeah, for sure.
And sables. All the sables are related.
I don't keep
all sables are related. This is why the Gilpins don't keep those.
Okay, let's do a couple more. Curious your thoughts are on producing white collar, high white kahua. Are the genes recessive, or do you need to match certain visual expressions? That one's for you guys, for the Gilpins.
Well, I will say, I mean, I've definitely seen animals that show virtually no white collar produce some of the highest white animals I've ever seen. At that point, though, I'm not sure if some expression is going to be just displaying, like, is a visual marker for the recessive trait, and then it gets paired up and produces like a high visual. But I mean, I think some of these people have produced maybe only 1 out of 20 or 30 animals from a certain pairing that's exceptional, which would not be odds of it being a recessive trait. You have to hit it, I guess, at least at 25%. If it's 2 non-visual recessives.
Yeah.
And so to only hit 1 out of 20 or 30 animals is not great odds.
Brian's thinking about that.
So no, I'm trying to think like, so then what would you consider that genetic? Like, would you just call it like a phenomenon type thing?
I'm not sure on that. That would be a better question for somebody that knows more about genetics. All I know with us keeping kahua is to pair like looking animals that produce higher white animals. And so far up until now, we've only selectively bred them. We have done 0 line breeding.
Okay.
But that's also changing for, I think, many breeders. So it's gonna change, and it's gonna become more consistent for sure. But there's gonna be some selective line breeding mixed in there to see if you can increase consistency. But we have some pairings that produce what I would consider 50% or higher high white animals, or almost entirely 100% high white animals, depending on the pairing. So it could just be a stackable dominant trait like pinstriping or something, where once it's there, it's kind of hard to get rid of. I don't know.
This is a little off topic, but it's related to kahua. So did you see Panoni's dark kahuas that he's has?
Mm-hmm.
He's bred them yet, or or he hasn't?
Think he's producing them with some consistency, and we've popped out a few, not quite to the extent as what he's got, but I mean, Kahua still throws some pretty random looking stuff out. Mm-hmm. Some pretty interesting, like striped looking animals, and some very like pastel-y looking, very washed out animals. Harry sent me one today that was just like almost super light gray with a little bit.
Oh, I saw that one too.
And it's interesting, but you do see stuff like that pop up, and I've just not targeted, and many breeders haven't targeted a lot of those projects, I don't think. So Panoni's working on it, a couple other people are working on it. It could be like a melanistic.
Yeah, that's what I was trying. Like that's what I guess he's trying to prove out, right?
Because I mean, you look at like melanistic lychees. Honestly, like I look at a melanistic lychee, and they hatch out dark.
Yeah,
they kind of stay darker, but to me, it almost looks more like a phantom pinstripe in comparison. Like it's like it's honestly, they turn brown, and they're to me they're just not dark enough to be what I consider to be melanistic personally. So it's certainly a recessive trait.
On lychees, sure. You're talking about lychees.
Yeah, lychees. So you could have a similar thing with the Kahua and the darker, that really dark base and almost no color to it. To me, what Panoni's working with looks more like a melanistic than a melanistic Leachianus.
Oh, okay.
And we're hatching out melanistic Leachianus here. We actually apparently had we were producing 50% hets for like 10 years and didn't know it.
Oh no.
And then we got a different pair from the Salzmans who were also doing the same thing, producing high color offspring that are 50% hets. And then we got some nice animals from him, and we got some nice animals from them and paired them up. And dang, that thing is a spaz.
So you accidentally hatched out melanistics.
This is a melanistic lychee right here. And to me, like it's not nearly dark enough to be like what I consider to be like a truly melanistic animal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like when they hatch out, they're super dark, and it's like really obvious when you compare them side by side to like their clutch mate. But a lot of them just kind of like dull out. So this is the clutch. Oh, you're a little spazzy. So this is the clutch mate here.
Oh, big difference.
But like even still, I mean the melanistic one's not super dark, and that's normal across like most. Even I think the GTs, some of them end up getting pretty dark. You want to take this one back too?
Even like I've seen some really dark, Connolly dark morphs.
Yeah, there are some super dark animals. I just find it an interesting descriptor for an animal that, in my opinion, is not dark enough to be melanistic, like truly melanistic. But yeah, so I don't know. It's kind of interesting to think about. Maybe some people will hatch out like a different line of melanistic, or maybe it's like albinism where there's different variations in it, so they just come out
like a T negative, T positive type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe somebody will pop out something that I'll look at and be like, oh, it truly is melanistic, and they'll still call that melanistic. I don't know, but who knows? I'm not, like I said, I'm not great with genetics across the board, so
could always be different variables. Yeah.
You guys, how you guys doing? Hang in there. You guys ready to?
I can go all night.
That's why we love having you on, Andrew and Sarah. You guys can go forever. It's fun.
Yeah, Sarah's gonna roll a duct tape over here in case.
Sarah's like knocking you on the elbow. He's like, let's go to bed.
Sarah's gonna put metronidazole in your freaking water.
Oh no.
Right.
Yeah. Any other closing thoughts, remarks from either of you guys?
Gonna play around some new photography settings and some different flash diffusers. And
when are we gonna see it? When are we gonna see some new photos from you guys?
They look totally different than
next update. I don't know. I've just got the background in today, and it's not super exciting. It's just something different that's a little more neutral because we were shooting on like a reddish colored sandstone before, which I think was putting like a wash across the animals. So
the ones that you have on your website, right? Yeah. I was like, I got the two animals from you not too long ago, and you had them listed on your website. I'm like, man, the pictures do zero. They wash out the animals so bad.
I know.
Well, and you know what? I told this to AJ. I'm like, Andrew's really good at photography. Why did he use that? Like,
the thing is it doesn't really matter what you use if you're not going to take the time to properly edit it. And so I could edit the animals to look great on that, but I'm not going to take the time to do it. I could shoot them on white, I could shoot them on black, I could shoot them on anything, but I'm using flash. And once I set the photography setup up and I set the white balance and I set the exposure, I do like a couple of tweaks here and there.
Yeah.
But I never readjust the white balance, but it changes as I move around and as things shift and stuff. So I'm trying.
What we have now will be better contrast and just nice and
bright.
I think minimal color to it.
So it's gonna be better.
As long as it's accurate. Accuracy is
important. It kind of made the animals like all very similar toned.
Yeah.
With the stand.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. And I mean, at a certain point,
it helps. Makes your customers happy because when they get the animal, they're always going to be happy. They're like, wow,
they take a chance of buying an animal that has an okay picture. The thing is like, if you go to Morph Market and you look at all of the images, 99% of them suck.
Oh yeah.
Like they're either dark or they're washed out or the white balance is off or you can tell
underexposed.
Edit the freaking crap off of it and the saturation is just like I mean, the animal looks like it's glowing from the inside, you know, like so you've got all like ranges of everything. So the new setup, I'm hoping to be able to have a very neutral final result. What's he laughing at?
No, I'm laughing at Brian's comments.
Like, when you said the saturation, I mentioned Cherry Bomb.
Oh,
the 30K was a 25K red animal.
You remember that gecko?
I don't. What was it? A Garg or Crested Gecko?
It was a Crested.
It was a Crested
red
Gecko. He wanted $25,000 for a red Phantom. That
oh boy! So
the saturation was bumped up so high.
What I want is a very neutral but well represented animal that just looks a little cleaner than what we're doing right now. But where I can go through and do like a minimal edit on one image. I'm going to try using Lightroom, which I've never used before. I'm going to do the availability in RAW, which I always shoot them in JPEG. And I'm going to try to do a quick RAW edit on the one image and then batch apply it to everything else and see how everything looks. And I might have to fine tune a couple of things here and there. But right now I'm shooting everything in JPEG, batch resizing it, and literally it goes on the template.
So your flashlight... do you have tripod lights behind you that you're using, or you actually have a flash on the camera?
Yeah, no, I've got studio flashes on light stands with softbox and like an umbrella. And
awesome, that's the way to do it.
It's a nice setup, but no matter what you do, like if you're using flash, you're going to wash out a little bit of the contrast and a little bit of the color, depending on the species, and so you're always going to have some variation. It's just a matter of how well you can fine tune it, how much time you want to try to like put into that. And when you're doing a couple hundred animals at a time, like it takes us 1 to 2 days just to shoot the photos. And then it takes us 1 to 2 days just to put them into the template. So you're talking
so much work.
4 days, basically full time just to do that stuff. So
yeah,
I mean, the pictures aren't a misrepresentation, like over representing them. They're just super neutral and like kind of dull, you know, which is not great when you're trying to like catch somebody's eye and get them to buy something, but it's also not a misrepresentation.
But you guys have a good enough reputation where people know that your animals are nice, and for the most part, everybody knows that when they get an animal, it's going to look better than what's in the picture. And that's pretty much when I picked out the animals, I knew exactly what I was getting.
Yeah.
So
a couple of things are gonna. Both of them are gonna be freaking sweet.
I gotta. You know what?
Look like this.
I have to.
That's a nice gecko. I don't think that's a misrepresentation, at least the way that I'm looking at it personally.
Oh my god! You should see how many other pictures of this thing is, like the real pictures.
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing is like I've gone through all phases of like photo editing to a point where like
the crop is weird.
I edited photos to where they looked like they were glowing, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, this is too much. Like at a certain point, you learn what's too much, and you don't know until you do it, right? Like you can sit there and take the slider and be like, damn, that thing looks like it's got all Christmas lights inside of it. Like, know, turn it down.
Like
Less is more.
Looks like the animal came from Chernobyl, not New Caledonia.
So the key for doing a little bit of editing is exactly that, a little bit.
Yeah.
Like
I love it.
5 or 10% on like a few different things, and then do like a before and after, and how did it look before and how does it look now? And if you can legitimately, how can you legitimately look at that edit and say, this is how it looks in my hand?
Yeah.
You know, but if you're like, man, I'm really going to sell this thing quick because it looks way better in this picture than, you know,
your hand's bright red.
Yeah, your hand is like glowing pink.
Yeah, it is.
So this is a very sensitive topic because there are so many people that have edited photos, and it's not like, so the problem is they honestly think their animal looks like that, and like I've seen like people's animals in person, and like I genuinely think that they think their animal looks like what they portray it as.
Yeah.
So like some of these animals, like you're like, oh wow, that thing is super white, but in their mind they really think it's that white, but it really isn't, and it could be at most best cream.
Yeah.
And it's bad.
Yeah, it's not difficult to like crank the contrast and then go into a program and take the whites and brighten them. Or take the darks and darken it or lighten it up. Like you can do that in 30 seconds. So it's just a matter of whether it's an accurate representation or not.
But that can get you canceled real fast. Like the social media is just so bad. Like Facebook, they'll hang you on Facebook, especially that Gecko FBI group. You do something, you'll put a misrepresented animal. Pretty much, you can say goodbye. You're done. You're out of this game. So I actually try to like do what, like, you know how you guys did with your thing, and it's like not edit it. Like I try, like for my animal sales, I'll undershoot and I'll like make it look not as, like, I'll try not to make it look anything different, like better, you know, if anything, I'll try to make it look less. Right.
So for us, like if I was only doing 10 or 20 animals and didn't have to do like 200, I'd probably adjust if needed, brightness and contrast, maybe the saturation up or down, depending on how it looks with the flash, levels and curves, and maybe sharpness after I resize it. And
highlights can make a difference.
Yeah, highlights and shadows possibly. But then you have some animals that look way different. Like if I shoot kahua and I shoot crested geckos, like I have to change the setup a little bit. Or like reds and oranges when you're using studio flashes will look too bright. So I'll take those animals and I'll drag the saturation down a little bit so they don't look too red.
Yeah.
Especially if you get like the brick, you get like the brick red or kind of dirty animals, and you hit those with the flash, like they look too bright. Like it makes it look like it's a brighter red than you want. You got to pull it back a bit.
Yeah. I think at most I do is usually brightness. Contrast I don't really touch. Saturation goes based on the color of the animal, but like I can't mess with saturation because I'm colorblind, so I can't tell. So that's the messed up part. Being colorblind fucks me up. So I was like, oh man, I can't adjust this because what if I'm making this thing look like cherry bomb?
Yeah,
and sure. I don't know that, so I'm just like, I don't even know what to do. So sharpness I'll do. Shadows is weird, man. Like I don't touch shadows only because like I do a lot of dark animals, and adjusting shadows would make you're misrepresenting, like trying to make it look darker than it actually is. And like,
well, shadows I usually don't. Shadows I don't usually do for so shadows, at least in Photoshop. I don't usually do this for like availability animals. I only do this for
for your regular,
on, like a cool portrait of an animal. The shadows, at least in Photoshop, are going to brighten the shadowed part, not darken it. So it's not affecting like the dark base color of like a blonde harlequin. It's gonna brighten like the shadowed parts of the image, like under the belly and neck and stuff. So, but what you're like, if you're looking at darkening darks, that's going to be increasing the darker part of like the levels of the curves will bring that stuff out.
Yeah.
And then contrast can do what you're talking about too, where like
Yeah.
it'll increase the dark, but also brighten the white at the same time. And so I don't mess with the contrast too much unless if I have a specific reason. Yeah. Well, you should.
Yeah, you just threw me off. That's crazy.
You should send Harry that message I sent
toy.
you on Instagram.
Oh yeah. I gotta get that.
I've got a better one for you, Harry.
Yeah, you have a better one. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
My buddy,
you guys
my
look
buddy
the
made
same.
this for me a few years ago.
This could be your brother. You know, well, he's young here, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't paint for shit though. Maybe if I watch more of his videos and tried it out.
You are painting, man. You're painting a living art.
Yeah, living art.
How do I put you guys side to side?
You're the Bob Ross of geckos.
Thank you.
Oh, I can't put you guys side to side. Yeah. Your living arts creation.
Did you get him that picture, Brian, or do I need to send it to him?
Yeah, send it to me later. Send it to me afterwards.
No, you need it now. If you're
I need it now.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna put it up. I can put it up, and then we'll go. And we'll put it up, and then I'm gonna go eat dinner.
Bob Ross pick, you got to give some credit to my buddy that put me into.
Oh wait, I got it. Hold up.
It's pretty legit.
Okay,
Harry, can I send it? Can I send it to you on Instagram?
Instagram, yeah. Okay, let me see. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay, we'll close out and end with this.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. I promise.
Okay, let me.
I wish I could find the full thing though, because this is only like a crop for a Facebook profile picture.
How do I? Okay, open image in new tab. I just want to show all our stuff here. Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to get like some who knows what messages in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the whole thing says happy little gingers, and it's like got a whole
Oh, I didn't even read that part.
Right here, happy little gingers.
I need to find the original because that's the way the Facebook profile cropped it when I found it and sent it to Brian a while back.
I was dying.
Awesome. Oh man. You guys good? You guys ready to end it and close out? So we can
yeah, man.
Yeah.
It was good. We had a good episode.
2.5 hours. That's good.
Yeah, I didn't even check the time. I just figured that's probably what it would do.
It was good. It's always.
I'm just about to get some messages from Grubterra, Korea.
Oh no! At Grubterra, send all your inquiries to Brian at Who's Geckos.
I'm about to get cursed out.
He's I don't know who he is.
Who? That's exactly
who. I mean, I'm sure there's a good place for those things, but I don't think it's being fed off in the larval form to geckos. I really don't.
Not to us.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Bob Ross, the Gilpins, Andrew and Sarah and Brian, as always, man, it was good hanging out. It's always a fun time. And AJ, we missed you for part of it, but glad you were able to join us. And so
we kept him around longer than he thought he was going to make it happen, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we held him here longer. It's always good. This always happens with our phone calls. We just chat forever.
Yeah.
It goes on forever.
Tosh just cursing him out.
Baby Henry. But yeah, subscribe and like, follow LAC Herps, follow Who's Geckos. And AJ and myself, give us a like and follow. And we love you guys. We'll do more of these if you guys are interested, and send us messages, whatever it is. Give us feedback. We're always happy to hear from you guys. And so thank you guys. We'll see you guys on the next one. Good night, guys.
It was fun.
Bye.
Peace out.
See you guys.